Ready? Yeah.
If everyone will be seated, please. I want to call the July 21st, 2022 meeting of the Fairground Municipal Planning Commission to order. Mark, we start off tonight with the election of officers.
Yes, we'll do that first so that we'll have someone to run the meeting. I will make a statement before that. We have our youth representative here this evening, Haley Sims. She's right here.
Hello, Haley.
And we're very glad to have her. She has an interest in being a planner. I told her maybe after this meeting she probably won't be interested
Give it a couple.
anymore. But we're glad to have her. Hopefully it'll be a good experience for her. Yeah, we have 3 officer positions on the Planning Commission. We have a chairman, vice chairman, and a secretary. The current chairman is Rita Holliday. The current vice chairman is Ed St. Clair, and the current secretary is Scott Russ.
So you guys all willing to serve another term?
We will do it.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I'm going to nominate that slate. I move to nominate that slate, or?
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Yes. Abstain, and
Yeah.
so,
Vote for 2 out of 3.
yeah. In that case, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. This is tonight's agenda.
We do have one recommended modification. Item number 13 is being requested for removal from the agenda by the applicant.
Move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval of the minutes of the June 16th, 2022 meeting. Are there any changes or additions or corrections? In that case, do I have a,
Go ahead.
Move to approve.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Commissioner Bellamy will abstain.
Thank you. Item number 4, discussion and public hearing on a proposed improvement to the Fritz Road and North Campbell Station Road intersection, Knox County Engineering and Public Works applicant.
I'm going to give you a brief overview of this, and then I'll turn it over to Jim Snowden, who's the director of Knox County Engineering and Public Works, if you have any specific questions for him. But this is really just requesting your approval for preliminary plans for improvements at the North Campbell Station Road, Fritz Road interchange. You may remember a few years ago, some of you were on the Planning Commission, the Knox County Planning Commission had the developer of Brandywine make some improvements along Fritz Road to their subdivision, which is actually out in the county. And then there was also some stipulations based on further development in the county off of Fritz Road that it would trigger basically improvements to this intersection. So that's kind of how we got to this point. The project involves a turn lane. There will be 3 11-foot lanes with curb and gutter. Then there'll be a sidewalk on the south side of North Campbell Station Road. Basically, the developers have entered into an agreement with the county to pay for the improvements. The county is going to provide oversight of the project, so there would be no cost to the town for these improvements. So that's kind of an overview of what's being proposed and what's being requested from you all. And I guess, Jim, if you all have any questions, more specific questions, Jim Snowden, I'm sure, is more than capable of answering that for you.
Thank you, Mark, for that comments. Yeah, I'd just like to add a couple of things.
Can you first tell us you're Jim Snowden and give
I'm
us an
sorry, ma'am.
address?
I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I'm Jim Snowden. I'm the Director of Engineering for Knox County Engineering and Public Works. Appreciate you having us here and your consideration of this request. As Mark said, this project's kind of been ongoing for some time. We finally got with the developers and have got them to agree for us to make these improvements. Our timeline is to, if the board were to approve it, to start the right-of-way acquisition process. There are a few tracts of land that need to be acquired. Get those acquired, the design completed, and all permits completed by the end of the year, first of spring, and let this for construction early next year, and hopefully have this improvement completed by the end of the calendar year of 2023. So that kind of gives you a rough time frame, and be happy to entertain any other questions you may have, but appreciate your all's consideration of the request.
Mr. Snowden, are you going to have to purchase right-of-way from, I know the north side is Knox County and the south side is, I think it's Farragut. Is that Farragut right there?
All
or-
of the right-of-way is actually in the town there.
Okay.
But all the development that's driving this is
In
pretty
Knox
much in the county.
Yeah.
And we will buy that in the name of the town of Farragut.
Okay.
Or transfer. We'll work with Mark and Darrell and make sure that you all have good, clear title to any tracks necessary. And we've actually, the largest impacted individual is the gentleman on the corner, Mr. Seal, and we've already spoke with him, and he is agreeable to the plans as they are presented.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I think, and I'm going to just say this, these kinds of projects, I see these kinds of projects, this is what's probably going to be needed on North Shore. I know that we're not going to be able to widen all of North Shore, but if we can get some turn lanes in there, that would certainly provide for safety and efficiency on your side and obviously on the state side as well. So I'm liking to see this project. This will help in the flow of traffic in that area.
Sure.
So thank you.
Thank you.
No, any other questions or comments, or anybody in the audience? In that case, do I have a
One
motion?
more question for you.
I move for approval, subject to coordinating the work with the town engineers department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you
And
for being here.
Well,
Thank you,
I have
ma'am.
one more question for him that was totally off topic, was Canton Hollow, because, that interests us. I know that you guys have funding for that.
Mm-hmm.
Your stumbling block is dealing with the gas line. What is the profile for Canton Hollow? What is it? I know you have, is it 11-foot lanes and then sidewalk and trail? What are you guys?
It is. It's it's two 11-foot lanes. We are developing a turn lane at the intersection of Loop Road. That was the only location that warranted a turn lane, but there's going to be significant vertical alignment adjustment as you drive through there. There's a lot of rolling hills with limited sight distance. So there are certain areas that we're filling 8 to 10 feet to make sure you have good sight lines. But assuming, let's say you come off of Kingston Pike and you're going south on Canton Hollow, on the right-hand side, it will be, 2 lanes, 2 11-foot lanes with curb and gutter. On the right-hand side, there'll be a grass, I think it's a 10-foot grass buffer, and maybe a 5-foot grass buffer. Don't hold me to that, but it is a 10-foot wide greenway on that side.
Okay.
And then on the left side, which would be the east side, there's a 2-foot grass strip and a 5-foot sidewalk. So there will be pedestrian facilities on both sides with a 10-foot wide greenway on the west side.
Okay.
And our
that's-
schedule, the schedule on that, obviously the gas line is it's a permitting process. We anticipate having that permit complete by probably spring of next year and start construction in the summer of 2023. And realistically, probably about 2 years to complete. It's a pretty involved project that will involve a lot of grade work, but hopefully by 2025 the project should be complete and folks using it.
Especially because you guys don't plan on shutting that road down to do it, do you?
No, ma'am, we don't. That's one of the reasons that when we bought that extra right of way for the greenway, we're able to essentially build what they call maintenance of traffic lane. So we'll build roads that you'll drive on and then they'll get removed and then repurposed with the greenways. So yeah, we won't be closing any of the roadways.
And the reason I ask is because I would love to see the next project possibly down the timeline, obviously, a little bit, maybe with some TPO funding, is Loop Road Woody Drive. It's about, I think it's 1.3 miles. So perfect, because if you're going to have sidewalks and trails, and we have sidewalks and trails, that's a missing connection, and they've got those multimodal standards, and they're trying to get that, they're embracing all of that. So it'd be great to see that road improved as well. That would help
Sure.
our
No.
transportation network. So
Be happy to work with Mark and Daryl on that, and hopefully we can secure some federal funding to make that connection.
that'd be great. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate your time.
Thank you all for your time and attention.
So we'll move on to item number 5, discussion and public hearing on the site plan, on a site utility plan involving the rebuild, upgrade, and partial relocation associated with the LCUB overhead transmission lines along Turkey Creek Road from Virtue Road to the future substation along Concord Road. LCUB applicant.
I want to try to give a brief overview of this, and Jeremy can correct any errors that I may make in my presentation, but I'm going to try to give you an overview of what's happening here. This is really just an upgrade of a section of transmission line that starts to the west, on the west side of Virtue Road, and it basically follows Turkey Creek Road all the way to Concord Road. Next month, there'll be a site plan for y'all to review for a substation on Concord Road, on the First Utility sewage treatment facility property. So that's the terminus of this project. So as you see on the screen, this is kind of the western portion of the project, and then as you work your way east along Turkey Creek Road, and then ultimately over to Concord Road. The project will involve the replacement of several poles. In some cases, the poles are going to be more than twice the height of the poles they're replacing. And that additional height is essential to get the spacing that they're going to need for the lines, for the upgraded lines. And really, this upgrade project is really essential for really future reliability and adaptability and resiliency of their electric service. So it's really a critical upgrade. There will be a real benefit to this project for a number of residents in Rixworth, Sellview, and Lake Haven. There'll be an overhead utility line system that will be abandoned, and those structures will be removed. And that's the green lines that show up there on the screen. Let me point that out. That'll give those folks more options as far as what they can plant in their backyards. But you can see this line, it goes up through here between Brixworth and Sellview, and then you go and almost due east through Sellview. And then as you go further east, you come across Turkey Creek Road into Lake Haven. So all that system there is going to be abandoned as part of this project. And basically everything's going to be along Turkey Creek Road with improved pole materials, taller poles, and an overall more robust system. One of the questions that I think LCUB wanted some feedback on from the Planning Commission was the pole material. If you start on the western, basically west of the inlet between Turkey Creek and Virtue, all those poles are gray galvanized steel. But the poles that are remaining as part of this project are all the brown weathered poles. And you know, that inlet kind of provides a natural break in the transmission line system between the pole materials. So, you know, I think from a staff's perspective, since they do have some poles kind of along the eastern part of the upgrade that are going to remain, and they're the brown weathered poles, that it might be a good idea to try to match those through this section, at least east of the inlet along Turkey Creek Road, so that there's a consistency of pole material. These are kind of the options that are in the area. You have the black poles actually on Concord Road, and then these brown weathered poles are the ones that are remaining along Turkey Creek Road. And then out west along Boyd Station and McPhee, and further west it's the gray galvanized steel. And these are the type of poles that are being replaced. Some shorter wooden poles, and then the old kind of lattice, steel lattice poles. So those are the ones that are going to be taken out as part of this project. So the staff has reviewed this, and we do recommend approval, subject to obtaining a right-of-way permit for the project. Obviously, they'll have to notify the affected residents, coordinate traffic control and all those kinds of things. And that's all part of the right-of-way permit. And then we'll also need to work with LCUB on how best to abandon those easements that they're going to be taking the structures out of. Normally, you would do that with plats, and that may be what we do in this case, but we do need to talk that through with LCUB. So with those subject tos, the staff would recommend approval of this project. And Jeremy Walden's here with LCUB if you have any technical questions or anything that you want to find out more about on this project.
If you'll tell us who you are and give us an address.
My name is Jeremy Walden. I am the Director of Engineering and Operations at LCUB. Thank you for consideration tonight of this project. I couldn't have laid it out any better than Mark did. It's a very critical project for us for alternate feeds for our transmission. We got a weak spot there, and with conductor, and we thought while we were doing it, we would clean up some of the area with some of the older poles and the old structures that go through people's property. To give a timeline on this, if this is approved, we look to immediately pursue easements that match our transmission line easements through that area already. Along the line where the green line is disappearing and the other brown line where the smaller poles, there'll now be larger poles. We don't have easements there for transmission, so we'll be pursuing that. We will also procure all of our materials. We've already put out for bids several different types of poles, so whatever you select, we'll pick. Material lead times on the poles are anywhere from 14 to 24 weeks. So that will put us, hopefully with the easements, we'll be starting around January, February, and we think we can complete it by July or so of 2023. And that would be important and crucial for us.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, the only question I have, in looking at the material that was presented for us to review, it looked to me like that you're going to replace the existing old poles, one for one. Is that correct? Or are you going to skip some, or how's that going to work?
No, it will be one for one. So if there's a pole there, whether it be a tall transmission pole and it's wood or concrete, we'll replace it. There will not be much height difference. There will be a little. It'll be a little bit taller, maybe 5 to 10 feet. Where the biggest difference is where you see the green line when we're coming to the road. Now there's what we call distribution lines. They're smaller 40 to 45 foot poles. They will be upwards around 80 to 85 foot poles in those locations. But it will be one for one. Those poles will get removed that are distribution, the smaller poles, and those wires will just get attached to the new taller poles.
Okay. Thank you.
How will you replace the metal lattice looking transformers, for lack of a better word? What will those be replaced with? Those will be completely removed.
Okay.
So in that section right there, the only place those are located are in that green section where it goes across people's properties. It's an old TVA line that we inherited or purchased, I guess. And those will be completely removed.
Thank you.
Mark, this is a question more for you. That first page that shows Admiral's Ridge Drive, we have a trail there, correct? And it
yes, we
goes,
do.
it goes straight
Yeah.
up there?
That's right.
So do we already have an easement or a right, I don't know if we have
We
right-of-way
do.
or easement.
Yeah.
So the trail, the portion of their right-of-way that's going through, I don't remember what that
That's
name-
Brixworth there.
Is
yeah.
that Brixworth? Well, that's Brixworth and
It's
then
between
what's-
Brixworth and Sellview.
Sellview.
That's Sailview.
Is this Sailview too?
This
So-
is Sellview here.
So is the idea that we would just roll those easements, get rid of them, and replace, and correct all the plats along here?
That's normally what you would do. We'll need to work with LCUB. I don't know, they have a little bit of a consideration with the way they obtain these easements, I think, that with the TVA,
Oh, okay.
we'll just have to figure out what's the best way to do that.
Okay.
But if they don't need those rights anymore, then they really would need to relinquish those.
To the property
through
owners.
a platting process. Yeah.
So I assume at some point we're contacting the property owners to let them know that those rights have been released, and now that's their property, and they don't have to worry about growing
Well, they
tall
would
trees
actually
and
have
stuff.
to, if you do it the way I'm envisioning it, they'd actually have to sign the plat because
Okay.
they'd be an owner
Okay,
that would be affected by
Okay.
the modification.
Yes, if I may speak, Mark, on that, we
Yeah.
do have some clarification from TVA. This is an old TVA line that goes through there. They usually hold on to their easements even if they hand over the property. They basically informed us the new easements that we will get along the new brown line
yeah.
on the road.
Yeah.
They will basically tack on to that easement, and we can completely release the other ones. So we have talked with our surveyor, and they're actually, if everything is approved, they're going to start surveying next week and start working on plats, and we will talk to all those individuals about releasing it and getting those cleared as well.
One of the questions I had was kind of related to what you all just discussed, and that was what degree have they been notified that this is going to happen? I think back to experiences where a surveyor shows up in somebody's yard and you kind of wonder what's going on or that kind of thing. So has there been some pre-communication before it really actually gets down to nuts and bolts?
Probably not to everyone. There have been some folks that have stayed in touch with us for many years individually, waiting for that line to be removed. So they are aware, but probably not everybody. If it's at your pleasure, we can certainly reach out to them and tell them that there will be surveyors on their property. We can send out.
I would encourage you that,
Yeah.
and also maybe the homeowners association
Okay.
too.
And the paper, you will have that in the paper?
There you go.
So,
If we have to send something out, we may start a little bit later on that, or we could do the areas up along the road before we go into that area.
There'd be 4 subdivisions that would be affected: Brixworth, Sellview, Easton Park, and Lake Haven.
Yeah, we have all the contacts through our GIS system, so typically what we do is send out a mailer to them. And if we don't have their phone contact number, because not everybody gives it.
One other curious technical question. What size substation are you looking at on Concord Road?
Physical size,
No, power.
capacity,
Yep.
it will be about 84 megawatts total. So it will help us for any future growth in that area, and really just, it helps level, which is one of our substations off Canton Hollow Road that you talked about. So it really helps that area, and it will also help down into the McPhee area.
any more questions or comments from the planning commission?
Make a decision on the pole
Poles,
finish?
yes.
Yep.
Can I make one more comment on the pole thing? I found out today from one of my engineers that I have to tell you that one of the pole that's immediately across the lake there, it is a galvanized pole, and our plan was to leave that there. So there will be one single galvanized pole there if.
Is that right here, roughly?
Yeah. No, that area will stay. It's back towards the Virtue area.
Where it crosses
Oh,
that
you mean
inlet.
on the far
Yeah.
west?
Not that part of the lake. The
Oh,
other.
yeah, okay. Over here.
Yes.
Okay.
It sounds reasonable that you would just keep the brown weathered finished poles for the rest of it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Most of it's running along.
That one's
Turkey Creek.
roughly in there, Jeremy. The one you're talking about is,
Is that where it crosses?
yeah, this is the inlet
Yeah.
here.
That would be it.
So it'd be this one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
As I
just a-
mentioned earlier, everything to the west would
Is
be the
galvanized.
galvanized steel, and then pretty much east would be the brown weathered.
Yeah. What, the Corten steel type?
Do we need to make a motion on that, or just,
That's what I was about to ask. Do we need to?
You can make that as part of your
Approval.
motion, yeah.
all right?
I need to add one more question on the aesthetics. If you look back at the poles that we show, Mark, the middle pole is that weathered steel.
Yeah.
If you look at the cross arm up there, the arm that goes across that the wire is on, that one is, we ordered special brown cross arms to match that. Our normal cross arms are gray. I have to ask for aesthetics, would you want the brown with it? It's no upcharge or anything, no lead time.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes.
Okay,
That sounds consistent with
Okay.
I'm a matchy person, so
gotcha.
and your completion date, you said again, was probably,
We hope July 2023.
I'd like to make it a, in our requirement that he contact the people as soon as possible. Because I know I don't want somebody roaming around my backyard
How
without
about
me being aware
contact
of it.
him when the surveyor is closer, because people will forget it. If he's going
Right.
to do surveys out in
Contact prior to
4 months, he
surveyors.
doesn't need to contact them now, because they'll forget that.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to have them pretty quick if you guys approve, like, so we'll get that out immediately.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, do I have a
Well, I'd
motion?
move for approval, subject to obtaining the right-of-way permit through the town's engineering department and also using the weathered finish for the poles and the
I'll
cars.
second that.
And contact the residents.
And contact the residents, yeah.
John, second.
I'll second that.
You want to put
Yeah.
a date?
No, he don't.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for coming tonight. We
Thank you
appreciate
all so
coming
much.
too.
Disastrous. That's an invitation too.
Item number 6, review a request for a recommendation of approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for a variance of 163 feet from the distance between driveways and 96 feet from the distance between driveways and intersection requirement for Collector Street as provided for a driveway and other access ways ordinance for an approved boat launch ramp across the side street, for a proposed boat launch ramp access on the south side of Turkey Creek Road at 11409 Turkey Creek Road, Williams Schweitzer, applicant.
Involves a request for a curb cut on a collector street. Turkey Creek Road is a major collector in our major road plan, and the required separation between driveways and intersections is 200 feet. So this property actually fronts on both sides of Turkey Creek Road, like many of the properties through this section. So they have some property on the lake side of the road that they're basically wanting to be able to drive over to instead of having to walk across and carry things. So it'd be probably a little bit safer condition. The access location would require approval of variances. Obviously, they're well within the 200 feet distance. They're 104 feet from Lindsay Lane to the north, and they're only 27 feet from the driveway to the house. So basically, I asked the engineering staff to go out and look at the proposed access location. It's about a 12 to 15 foot wide driveway is all it would be. And the site distance in both directions was excellent. So with that information and the understanding that this obviously would get very limited use, it's for the benefit of one person. It's not really going to generate hardly any traffic. So for those reasons, the staff is comfortable recommending approval of the variance to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Any questions or comments?
I'd like to make one comment, though, that 104-foot distance right there to Lindsay Lane, I mean, for all intent and purposes, that might as well be a driveway, because there are, 7 or 8 houses back there.
That's true. It's not
you know,
a-
it's just really not going to get a lot of traffic
Right.
coming off of it, so.
Yeah.
And those sight lines they're flat, they're very
Yeah.
visible and clear. People do come speeding around the corner, you know, once you hit Red Mill, but, you
Yeah,
know,
it's
the
good
sight
sight
lines are
distance.
pretty good.
Yeah, it sure is, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Is the applicant here?
Hello, my name is Ron Solomon. I'm with Bill Knox Construction, representing William Schweitzer. He is actually the the gentleman that's putting this through. He's has grandchildren. They usually walk across, but the problem they're having is even though there is a clear line of sight in certain areas, people are actually speeding through the the area right there, and they're just needing a little bit of a area there just to pull one vehicle over to unload and load some things, and he has grandchildren that he's taking across, and it's just a safety issue. Pretty much just safety, and
Anybody else, anybody have any questions or comments?
You know,
I think it's fairly straightforward. I'd like to make a motion for approval based on
Yep.
the fact that we've got a site distance. It's okay. We have, it's a limited use, and it enhances, definitely enhances the safety.
second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you for coming.
yes, ma'am, thank you.
So, Mark, this goes to the to the Board of Mayor and
Yeah.
Aldermen?
Do you have a idea of when that will be, so we can tell him?
The first meeting in August, would be my guess.
Did you hear that? That'd probably be the first meeting in August, but
It has to go to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for approval.
It probably would be August the 11th when it would go to the board.
That's just a formality. It needs to go to, we're just a recommending body for something like that, so.
so Mark, will you let them know, or will they need to just watch that on the,
I'll let him know.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for that insight about the 7 or 8 houses. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's another.
Item number 7, discussion and public hearing on an approval for the final plat for Phase 2 of the Meadows on McPhee subdivision, parcel 0119, parcel 019 and 014.4, tax map 162, 26.44 acres, 48 lots, zone R-1, OSR, Homestead Land Holdings applicant.
Yeah, this plat was postponed last month because they weren't ready in the field. They've been working in the field since that time, and they're in a position to where they are ready from that perspective. There's still a few loose ends that they need to address. One of the things we talked about at the staff developer meeting is there's still a short section of walking trail basically right here that they're waiting to put in because they're trying to get a design that would work best for drainage. There's a pretty good amount of drainage flow through this area. And then they were just going to post or add that to a letter of credit for the surface course completion and do all that at one time. So it would be occurring relatively soon, but we are trying to make sure that they get the drainage right for that trail, because the town ultimately is going to be taking over that trail for maintenance. So this basically, this phase would finish out the Meadows on McPhee subdivision. This phase is 48 lots and 26 acres. And the staff recommends approval of this final plat, subject to the items that were noted in your emails earlier. There's a clarification on one of the lots to add some greenway easements for future locations, completing any remaining field punch list items, providing the letters of credit for this phase, and then, of course, obtaining the required signatures. With those conditions, the staff recommends approval.
Will you tell us who you are and give us an
Yes.
address?
Good evening, Commission. Thomas Krajewski, Homestead Land Holdings, 122 Perimeter Park Drive.
And are you agreeable with the subject twos?
Yes, ma'am. We respectfully request Commission's approval of the final plat, subject to the conditions provided by the town.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I'm going to move to approve.
Let's first, before we do that, and see if there's anybody in the audience that has any questions or comments.
Nobody's signed up.
Nobody signed up, okay.
Move
Okay,
to approve
let's-
with the subject twos.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Commission.
Next one, too.
Okay, item number 8, discussion and public hearing on approval for final plat for Phase 1 of the Grove at Boyd Station Subdivision, Parcel 50, Tax Map 162, 6.87 acres, 25 lots, R-1 OSMSR, Ryan Lynch, applicant.
Yep, before we get into discussion, Mark, I got a question.
All right, sure.
The item on the agenda talks about plat for Phase 1. I think the drawing in the package talks about Phase 1, Unit 1. So do we need to make sure we're matching up with our titles for the agenda item and what we're approving or not approving?
Okay. Yeah, we can add that as a clarification if you want on the subject.
Yeah, I just want to
twos.
make sure that we make sure there's a crosswalk there match.
Personally, I like just saying Phase 1, 2, 3, 4. It's simpler, unless there's a reason to do it otherwise. I'm not really sure why there would be, but
Yeah, unless there's more units in Phase 1. I just take Unit 1 off the drawing.
obviously this subdivision will have multiple phases because it's a very large development.
Yep, but it's
So-
implied by the drawing that Unit 1 is a sub-part of Phase 1.
It's, I mean,
that- Maybe he could give
Commission,
us
I can address that for you.
Let's go with, again, telling who you are, if we've
No
got a
problem.
different one.
Thomas Krajewski, Homestead Land Holdings, 122 Perimeter Park Drive. And to address your question, from a construction standpoint, we have addressed what we have designed as Phase 1, 2, and 3, and so forth of the project. And since we were able to finish a portion of Phase 1, which is our Phase 1, our surveyor likely made reference to Phase 1, Unit 1, these 25 lots being a portion of what we internally called Phase 1. And so I think it's just a discrepancy between what we are calling Phase 1, which is actually larger than just these 25 units, rather than the plat that is for just these 25 units. So it won't make a difference for us whether it's called Phase 1 only or Phase 1, Unit 1. I think
it
our
makes a difference
surveyor
of what
was.
we're approving.
Pardon?
What we're calling the agenda item. If it's just Phase 1 and that's all of Phase 1, or if it is actually Phase 1, Unit 1.
For all practical purposes, this is Phase 1 from a plat perspective. So and the reference to Unit 1 is just an internal nomenclature, if you will.
referenced in the covenants, do you remember?
Simply Phase 1.
Okay, that's what it needs to be
I
then.
just make
Okay.
sure Mark, puts in our minutes what we're approving. That's-
Yeah.
Or not.
I would just
or not
strike out
approving.
Unit 1 and be what I would recommend as an additional subject to on that one.
Sure. That's okay.
Sorry to interrupt the introduction, but
But what do you call that subject to? Remove the,
Take out reference to Unit 1
In the,
on the plat.
final plat.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend. I didn't even notice that really down there.
all right, so number 7, we'll read, remove reference to Unit 1 on final plat. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, this phase actually comes in off of the east side of the roundabout that's across from McPhee Park. And it's, they're building part of a road that will continue on, obviously, in the southeastern direction. And then they're also constructing a cul-de-sac. There'll be a walking trail connection. It's been built. Basically, we go to McPhee and tie into McPhee's pedestrian system. And then there's a walking trail that goes up and ties into the cottages at Price Farms. And I've been told that people are already using this, and so that's great. And that's basically this phase. It's relatively small, 25 lots, a little under 7 acres. The staff had a few minor comments on the plat, which I think should be easy to address, dealing with certification seal, platting some drainage easements, which the surveyor has done. He sent me an email showing some changes that they made, but it still would need to be a subject to at this point. And then just some cleanup of some notes that weren't relevant to this particular phase. So with that, the staff would recommend approval of this final plat, subject to the now 7 conditions, including the removal of reference to Unit 1 on the plat.
And you all are okay with all these subject twos?
Yes, ma'am. We're fine with all the subject tos.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Have a motion?
Move to approve, subject to the 7 statements.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you for your time.
coming.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to take a little break here, Mark, you said? Or-
Oh, no, not right now. We'll-
Okay.
Maybe later. I think it's fine.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 9, discussion and public hearing on approval for an update concept master plan for amendment to the town center at Biddle Farms, PCD, to include 47 townhouse units in an area identified on the original concept plan as future development. Bud McCollum, applicant.
And one other thing, the applicant wanted some feedback on before we get started into this, is the entrance features. This is kind of, as I understand it, the latest proposal that they're looking at. This is at the Kingston Pike, Biddle Farms Boulevard entrance into the development. And so that's what they're proposing. If you remember, these 2 columns here, if you remember, earlier versions were more vertical, and there was concern about it would kind of taken away maybe from some of the buildings that would be in that location. So I think, again, Bud and his team wanted to get some preliminary feedback. This is really not necessarily part of, it's not being approved or anything, but I think they want to see if this is kind of moving in the right direction, so they can, move a little further in this regard. So we'll look at that first, and then I'll go in on the amendment that they're requesting to the PCD. Does anybody have any thoughts on this?
I personally think it's moving in the right direction because it was kind of overpowering before, and now it's still very visible, but it's more subtle.
And
Better.
And it enhances the building being the focal point for the eye.
It looks like Biddle Farms Farragut Town Center is underneath it.
Would those be, Bud, would those be curved, or would they just be at a 45-degree angle from the curb?
Those are not curved. That's a 45, but you also see some columns and fencing if you were able to zoom in.
Right here. Zoom in.
Tell us who
Yeah.
you are first.
I'm sorry.
And an address.
Bud Cullum, 6312 Kingston Pike, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919.
I think that's my main job as chairman.
That's all right. I knew better.
Columns he's talking about that would go along Kingston Pike, I guess.
Wrought iron going from column to column.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually true wrought iron, but it'll look like wrought iron. So again, our team, and I sensed maybe even some of the individual planning commissioners have been back and forth on different things. What we're showing, and I don't know if it's if you're able to see from your computer, I can't tell it here, but the surface that we're showing would be like the Indiana limestone. And one of the issues for us, I'll just be candid, is can we put the Biddle Farms Farragut Town Center lettering on it, or does that require a text amendment? Obviously, we think having the property identified, and especially since we've gone round and round and round and finally ended up what I think is a clever name, is that Farragut Town Center is a larger area than just our development. So we are Biddle Farms at Farragut Town Center. Hopefully we will be the impetus or catalyst, should I say, for many other developments that are part of Farragut Town Center. So hopefully everybody, we're pleased with it, and I think I've talked to a couple people and I see some heads nodding up and down, so I know Commissioner Green was happy about that. So anyway, I'll shut up about that. We're not stuck on this particular design. I actually have a member from a team that's working on overall signage from the multifamily, wayfinding, everything else that's here tonight. He just happened to be in town. And depending on what we hear tonight, we may go back and charge him with taking yet another stab. But we just kind of, you're not voting on it. We wanted to know if we were going in the right direction or if we need to keep going.
What I like about it is I can definitely envision an update on the Farragut High School part of this, and this would work well. We have those scrubby-looking trees in front of the baseball field, but they serve a purpose there. But maybe to put something with these smaller columns and wrought iron can class that up a little bit, that area. And certainly the signage, that would work very well for the Farragut High School sign.
Sure would.
So just that look. So I like that.
Mark, do we need to just convene later, at a later date regarding the lettering, or is that?
I mean, you would need a text amendment, but I think you need to think about all the signage and, maybe put all that in, because there may be other things that would require a text amendment, and just try to do it all at once would be probably the best way to do it. It's almost like a subdivision entrance is kind of the way it kind of is functioning, like you're going into Brookmere subdivision or Orchid Grove or wherever. So, it might be something that we would look at, similar type of parameters for these kinds of signs. But there might be some other signs with that wayfinding that, we don't currently provide for either, and I don't want to try to go through and amend one thing and then find out.
Yeah, that's very good advice.
Probably need to get with your sign team and just figure out, what you'd like to do and present it, and then go from there.
I like the white background against the building, as well as the white background with your lettering makes that really stand out.
Contrast.
And that's limestone and not painted brick, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's great.
I love the
But I
lines.
can't see from here, but what's that emblem above the Biddle Farms?
That's our logo. It's a BF. It's a intricate B and an F.
Fancy script?
It's our logo.
Kind of neat.
So are you planning the limestone with the dark lettering otherwise through the development as well?
I don't know that we've gotten to that point yet. It's certainly a thought if this is the way we're going. I know that on the multifamily first level, when we first showed it before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, it was depicted as the limestone. Then it came back potentially as the painted white brick. We have made the decision that we like the limestone much better. It's a traditional look. If you go to a lot of downtowns, you'll see, the first level, and that the original was Indiana limestone. and then a brick above it. So I think Southeast Bank used the same feature. We used a little bit of that feature on the public store at North Shore Town Center, and I think it's a much better look than the painted brick.
I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very much so.
All right,
You think
so-
you got enough direction from us?
All right, on the other items, the
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
And, I don't mean to put any individual commissioner on the spot, but just out of curiosity, how does each commissioner feel about the lettering being on, and if it took a text amendment? If you don't want to answer that yet, that's fine.
I like that. I'm a little frustrated that it requires a text amendment, but I do like the lettering.
I concur.
I think it looks great, and I think we ought to do what we can to accommodate that.
Okay,
Yeah, it's kind
thank
of
you.
like the Top Golf. We didn't really envision something like this when we
When we
updated
were
the
doing
sign
sign
ordinance.
Yeah, I
So
know.
unfortunately, it's kind of it's one of those things that,
The nature of the
but I
beast.
think we do need to think about it in more than just this project, maybe an area where we want a certain look and feel like the town center. The signage is a very important
Yep.
component of that, just like the lighting and the architecture. So.
Again, I'm with my matchy-matchy, but I like the consistency of it. And that's a nice thing to be consistent with.
Well, thank you. That's been very helpful. Is that helpful to you, Sean?
Yeah, that's, I'm the sign person.
Come on up to the,
Come with the microphone, please.
You got to give your
They
name
can't
and
hear you
address.
at home.
Just to fill in really quick, Sean Tobin with Creative Sign Designs out of Tampa, Florida.
Can you
And
give us an address or?
office address 12808 Commodity Place.
Thank you.
Yeah, the information we're looking for here is just kind of your feedback. This iconic piece, as we kind of label it, once we have a direction on that, we're going to take these elements and kind of institute them throughout the property to really make that additional signage kind of match and all feel as one. And this is kind of that gateway piece, so to say. It's that entrance. Those secondary and tertiary layers of the signage are going to really play off this and really make it feel like a sense of place. A community center, that's kind of the idea behind this. So we want to make sure that we're getting this element in the right direction and then build the rest of the pieces off of that. So Mark, sorry, I couldn't remember his name, was kind of speaking towards that overall view of the whole property. And we will be putting that together from the feedback from your opinions today on if this is going in the right direction.
Thank you, John.
Have we provided that information for you?
I believe so. I think, we're getting the colors down and kind of the stuff that, you are liking to see. And it also, through the property, one of the things I'd probably ask, there is going to be an introduction to some vehicular signage, and whether that would be mounted to a post and set a little higher up, or more at a ground level, coming up as a monument style type of piece. And I don't know if there's opinion one way or the other. I wish I had some examples with me. I don't know if you can imagine driving through a city, and having post-mounted signage that's about to the bottom of the sign would be about 9 feet up, and then you have some directional information, or something that's a little bit more ground-oriented and has some ground information for vehicular traffic on it.
I'd like to see examples for.
Examples of both?
The ground-oriented, just without seeing the examples, seem like they may be an impediment to, pedestrian viewing, and it is supposed to be a pedestrian area, so but
Correct.
elevated to 9 foot, just without seeing examples, it seems like.
From a vehicular
9 foot.
standpoint, most of the time I would recommend post-mount it and lifting it off the ground a little bit.
Well,
But
we're
this,
also trying to carry whatever this is through the whole town center, trying to make sure
Correct.
that, so whatever we choose, that's why this is so important, that we're making sure that we're going to be able to carry this through and that it looks consistent.
yeah, we understand that, and that's kind of why I'm here. I want to take in your input, and, this is a collaborative effort. It's not just one entity, but it's going to be stuff that's going to be implemented by multiple developments as you grow, so.
Question about the lettering, is it, what's the material?
That would be aluminum. It's going to hold up the best. It'll be painted black, and then it would be stud mounted into the stone.
Painted being powder coat or?
Yeah.
We do a automotive grade paint, is what we usually spec, but we can do powder coating if requested. The only major difference between the two is powder coating is technically going to be a little bit greener. From a production standpoint, there's a little less vapor and toxic materials that are released from that, but they both hold up very well. From an automotive paint, you can have that on a car for 10 years. You're going to get a little bit of fading, but as long as it's all together and it's painted at the same time, you won't notice that over time.
Any more questions or comments?
All right, we'll go on to the, to the actual request here. This is really an amendment to the original rezoning for this project is really what it is. When you rezone to planned commercial development, you have to have a development plan, and that includes a survey, a narrative of what you're trying to do, trying to accomplish with this project, and then a concept master plan. And then once that is rezoned, and if you have modifications, then they're classified as minor and major. Minor ones can be approved by the staff. Major ones would be where you have new buildings, increased density, which both of those you would have with what they're requesting this evening. What they are requesting is kind of a follow-up from what was discussed as a workshop item in May, and that is to include an area that was shown as future development on the original rezoning. Basically now 47 townhome units in this general area. And this down here is Campbell Station Road and Brookline here, so that's kind of where it sits in relation to the project. And since this is would be considered a major modification to the original rezoning, it requires review and approval by both the Planning Commission and then the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So that's kind of an overview of what is being requested. I've got some sheets that show a little bit more detail. This is just some of the conceptual landscaping of what that would look like. These two areas here are stormwater detention basins that kind of flank each side of the townhomes. Obviously, the floodplain is back here, and there's a walking trail that basically goes around this section, basically wraps around the perimeter. And they're townhomes, and I think you all have seen kind of versions of this. This is kind of what they're envisioning, I think, the townhomes to look like. The buildings would be anywhere from 4 to 6 units, and that's roughly what I think they would like to show, 2 and 3 story townhomes. They have been able to work out where each lot would have at least 25 feet of frontage on a public street, so that was an earlier concern, and they've managed to figure that out. And so that's kind of what they're proposing. That's the different types of brick that they are looking at for this, colors and shingle material. And then looking at it again in relation to the overall project, the The green area is currently open space, areas that are green in the overall development. And then the dark green would be open space that's going to be dedicated and maintained by the town, dedicated to and maintained by the town. Here's the village green that's just to the south of the Aldi. And then an area here along Brookline, and then of course along the floodplain. And you can kind of see the pedestrian network within the development itself. I'm not sure how many miles they're going to have of a combination of sidewalks and walking trails, but it'll be pretty substantial. And then this is the proposed public streets, and in relation to the townhomes, in order for each lot to have frontage on a public street, the periphery, this street here is public. Then they also have a section of street internal that would be public that provides legal access, public access to these units here that wouldn't otherwise have it. So that's kind of an overview of what this particular item involves. There were a few minor subject twos regarding this approval. Really need a title sheet that just has a, lists all the sheets that are part of this project. It's obviously just a concept plan at this stage. There'll be more detailed preliminary plats and final plats that'll be coming before you all as this moves forward. Some of the things that we looked at, and just in reviewing this, there's going to be like a couple of hydrants that would likely be needed around this street here. And then just updating this to be consistent with the conditional letter of map revision that has recently been accepted by FEMA, making sure that that is all consistent with that, and that's basically it. There's a couple of changes to one of the sheets. I've already discussed those with the project engineer, just for clarification on sheet CP1. And with those subject twos, the staff recommends approval of this amendment to the original PCD for this project.
Two committee meetings ago, Vice Mayor Pavlin did an excellent summary of the traffic mitigation efforts. How close are we to any of those actually coming to fruition? I think there were 5 that you listed.
Well, at least the one up at the interstate is being done now, but I'm not sure that impacts this one. We have budgeted the design for the potential for improvements at Campbell Station, north and southbound, but as you're aware, there's some controversy with that. All we have right now is it's budgeted. We have not approved a contract. At that point, I would hope that the community would come in so we can have a discussion about what it is we're looking for. All it is a pencil design at this point. We may be able to fit in 11-foot turn lanes. I have no idea, 10.5-foot turn lanes. But that's the opportunity that we're looking at. Certainly that is not budgeted for the fiscal year. I guess we're in the fiscal year 23 now. So that's one of the things that we have coming up. I do have a little discussion on that, so
Thank you.
If you hang tight.
Thank you.
Do you want?
Yeah, I had touched base with Mark on the same topic, because I understand that we have some mitigation strategies in place. And even though the impact is fairly minor, it appears, but it is going to contribute to the congestion. So I wanted to know, I just wanted an overview to kind of refresh my memory, and perhaps the rest of the commissioners, on exactly what we're doing to help mitigate those issues there at Campbell Station. And, we had the lane changes, and I think we also have some traffic light management that's going on too. So those things, I think I'd like to hear those again.
I've got that PowerPoint that Brandon Tupper put together.
Is this a part of this agenda item, or is it for another piece of the
the
discussion?
traffic study is in here.
Traffic study is a part of
is
this
in there,
item,
yeah.
so I
Traffic
think
study
I'd
is
like
part
to.
of this.
So let me pull that up. I think he's here, and he could probably review this much better than I can. I probably know enough to be dangerous, like most things. But we'll just, similar to what we did a few weeks ago, we'll kind of just go through the projects, and I'll click on these. And these are projects that are kind of in this general area of Campbell Station, Kingston, Pike, Concord Road. And I'll turn it over to Brandon Tupper.
Thank you, Mark. I'm Brandon Tupper. I'm the Assistant Town Engineer working here in Municipal City Hall, Town Hall, excuse me. Thank you, Mark. You got the PowerPoint pulled up there, so I'll quickly go through the first couple here, and then we'll get into the ones that Commissioner Green specifically is asking about. The first one here is Westin Lane reassignments. We did a traffic study of actually the school traffic last year in coordination with Knox County Schools, and we had a few recommendations that came out of that. One of them was to reassign the lanes on Westin as it approaches Kingston Pike to provide for a dedicated right turn lane. We implemented that this school year, and the feedback that we've gotten from the school is it's working very well, and it's been a good improvement. Next one. This is ongoing right now. This is more of a maintenance item than anything, but I'm sure as everybody's aware right now, TDOT is in the process of resurfacing Kingston Pike throughout all of the town of Farragut. As part of that project, they are also doing pedestrian safety improvements. This is really a twofold project. The first thing that TDOT is doing is replacing all of the curb ramps at all the intersections and driveways with ADA compliant curb ramps. Specifically in this corridor, looking at the Kingston Pike corridor here between Campbell Station and Westin Avenue, they are also realigning the crosswalks and the curb ramps to provide for some improved pedestrian safety, specifically looking at moving from one curb ramp that would be in the radius to replacing that with two that would be set back off the radius in either direction, and that will shorten the distance that pedestrians have to cross. That was a recommendation from Knox County and TDOT's engineering, and they are implementing that right now. There's a second part of that after the TDOT's done, we are working on a contract now to do some stamped asphalt crosswalks in lieu of just the typical horizontal bars. That has a couple both safety and a couple aesthetic and pedestrian safety enhancements to it. By making those crosswalks more visual, it definitely provides a better cue to drivers as they approach this area to understand that they're entering into a pedestrian heavy area. Next project, please.
Is that by the school and where else?
Yes, sir. It would be at all four of those intersections.
All four? Okay.
Yes, sir. Next project on here is the Advanced Traffic Management System. This is really the big one for us here from engineering. So when we think about congestion and what we can do to mitigate that, one of the big things is efficiency. So what the Advanced Traffic Management System will do is replace all of the traffic signals in town, these and as well as all the other ones, all 26, with new equipment. So we're going to get increased reliability from the new controllers, cabinets, that will be less downtime. They were also replacing all of our detection with radar. Right now we have a combination of loop detection, which is what you see cut into the asphalt, some radar, some camera. So everything will be going to radar detection, which is the most reliable system that we could install there. It's also going to put everything into coordination. So part of the project is interconnecting each one of the signals with fiber so that we have a central traffic control center here in Town Hall so that all the signals have the ability to be coordinated or synchronized. Right now we do coordinate the signals here on Kingston Pike, but when things like this paving are going on, that gets interrupted because the detection will get interrupted as they come through a mill. They're also based off of timing right now, where we are timing the different traffic signals. When they're interconnected with the fiber, they'll actually talk to each other and we'll be able to stay in coordination a lot better. So the project overall is just going to increase the efficiency of the traffic signals throughout town. Next one. This one was talked about a little bit by Vice Mayor Pavlin. So as part of the original traffic impact study from the Biddle Farms, that identified a couple intersections that we really need to key on just based off of the background traffic that's happening. One of them was here at Campbell Station and Kingston Pike, and specifically looking at the left turn lanes for both the northbound and southbound movements. We identified that back in '22, as Vice Mayor Pavlin said. It was budgeted in FY '23 to complete that study and purchase any right-of-way required for any widening. As Vice Mayor Pavlin said, it's just a concept at this point in time, but we're looking at adding an additional left turn lane in both the northbound and southbound movement with some minimal widening to the roadway. Another project, and this is really, the last project was really dealing with capacity of the roadway and trying to increase our capacity by adding a lane. This is a similar type approach. So we are also in the process of a concept design for Jamestown Boulevard improvements. What this would do would be add traffic signals at both Kingston Pike and Campbell Station. And the theory behind it is to promote Jamestown Boulevard as a second left turn off of Kingston Pike onto Campbell Station. We know that the eastbound Kingston Pike movement turning left onto northbound Campbell Station is also a problem. This would provide a viable route with signalized intersections at both times, kind of a relief valve for the busiest times of day. And next one, please, Mark. This one is similar, but one thing that Vice Mayor Pavlin and Mr. Jim Snowden talked about earlier is improvements to Loop Road, Kent Hollow, Woody Lane. One thing that we've asked TDOT to evaluate is putting a traffic signal at Loop Road. This is really from a safety as that area is starting to develop. Taking a left turn out of Loop Road onto Concord is becoming more and more difficult. It's a TDOT road there, so that would be governed by TDOT, but we have asked them to evaluate and look at that.
I will add on to that. By the mere fact that we've widened that from 2 lanes to 5 lanes, it's people that would consider making a left-hand turn are not going to make a left-hand turn there. It's very unsafe. So basically what it's doing is it's driving more traffic up into Farragut off of Loop Road, and probably driving it on onto that residential portion of Concord Road, which I would love to see us be able to take some traffic off of Concord Road. That portion should be made more of an asset to the residents who live there. It's in the the parent responsibility zone, and I'm not sure there's many that will send their kids down that sidewalk. It's not a very pleasant experience. So improvements to Loop Road, Woody Drive with some lanes on either end and traffic lights on either end when Canton Hollow is improved could very well alleviate some of the traffic coming through Farragut and give some of the residents in that area down there another opportunity to get out to Level Road, because a lot of people are using the Concord Road, Kingston Pike intersection as their cut through to get to Level Road, not so much to get into Farragut. So anything we can do to kind of offload some of that traffic would be helpful for our town center.
Something I'd like to clarify, in the drawing there that Brian's got up there, you see the orange on each side of the intersection there at Campbell Station and Kingston Pike. And you notice on the north side that orange stops at a certain point. I think there is a misconception that this was going to go all the way back to Jamestown Boulevard, but in all reality, it does not, and it goes actually right there by where you would go into the driveway of the White Stores property.
Yes, sir, that is correct. We're evaluating from Municipal Drive north through the intersection and stopping there at the Village Green driveway.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, because I think there's been a misconception about that.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's been very helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I also did a little bit of analysis and I'm going to go through it quickly. I'm not going to keep you guys because I know it's getting through traffic studies but I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the traffic studies and who does them and why they're done. The purpose obviously is to estimate the site-generated traffic. and its impact on our public street system. And it provides for recommendations for on-site or off-site improvements when it's required, which typically we require them. It's governed under the Town of Farragut Ordinance, Section 22-147. And a licensed traffic transportation engineer is required to conduct the traffic impact study. Basically, the developer will hand over what their intention is as far as square footage of build-out for commercial or office, or how many housing units or multifamily units in this case, and then they give it to the traffic engineer. The traffic engineer will consult with our engineering, but the developer's out of it at that point. They're running. This is something that they do. So. When you get a traffic study, usually what we go to is the back page where it says recommendations. That'll tell you, oh boy, especially a developer will look at that and like, okay, what am I in for? This was the recommendations for this particular development. Minimize landscaping using low-growing vegetation and signing at the planned site accesses, which makes you wonder, okay, well, that's pretty minimal. So you move it on, then you go and read in the conclusions, and that tells you the rest of the story. From the analysis conducted, changes in intersection capacity and delays are minimal for the study intersections, and levels of service did not change significantly from the background traffic conditions. The proposed site does not have a significant impact on the adjacent road network, as traffic projections and intersection analyses found little impact resulting from the proposed development. And so that makes you wonder, okay, this is going to put some traffic off, so where's that going? So this is a table in the traffic impact study that compares the background traffic, 2025 background traffic, that's if this project didn't happen, and the 2025 projected traffic, which is the background traffic plus this project. And I've highlighted both Kingston Pike, Campbell Station, and Kingston Pike Concord, because those are the two intersections that we're really most concerned about. And you will notice the VC ratio, whatever that is, and the delay doesn't change much from, that's why the grading stays pretty much the same. So started digging in a little more, okay, what's going on here? So these are, the first one is from the packet today. The second one is the total trips generated from the Biddle project during peak hours. AM is, the PM is in the parentheses and the AM is by itself. And then, of course, the third one is the total 2025 projected traffic, including the total development trips. So this includes what's going to go on regardless, and this is added into it. So I did a little bit more analysis from there. And so for Kingston Pike, Campbell Station Road intersection traffic count analysis, I added in the townhomes to this projected traffic. So in your PM peak, the Biddle development and the townhomes generate about 210 of the 6,209 traffic that's going on in this in the PM peak. It's 3.5%. So it accounts for 3.5% of all the traffic that's moving in this intersection. So once you start digging into those numbers, you're like, okay, that makes sense now. It accounts for only 3.5% in the PM peak. It accounts for only 2.6% in the AM peak. So there's a lot of stuff going on that is going to exist there regardless, and that's why the traffic impact study was the way it was. PM peak for Concord is 4.84%, and AM peak, this project accounts for 2.7% of the total traffic. So identifying additional mitigation beyond what's going on in the heart of our town. One of the things that Mayor Williams has been touting or pushing for is once we have the interchange rebuilt, it can accommodate a fourth lane, at least a fourth westbound lane. I believe that we're also requesting a fourth lane eastbound as well. But the problem is at Level Road, it goes from 4 to 3. It backs up, people get off, they come up Kingston Pike, go to Campbell Station, or go all the way to Watt Road, and we know what that congestion that's causing. So fourth westbound lane extending from Level Road to the split would help assist us with the issues that we're dealing with on Kingston Pike during rush hour. Next one. Another one would be to relocate the way station. We all know that we have a lot of tractor trailers coming through our town that are just avoiding the way station. I know there's been some discussion. I'm not sure that it's on TDOT's project list, but this would help tremendously. It's time for them to relocate this to a more appropriate location. We have way too many traffic trailers, you know what I'm saying, running through our town, and that would alleviate a lot of our issues. Next one. Another mitigation is kind of what the project we saw today on North Campbell Station Road, seeing some of that, seeing a plan for North Shore. This portion that I've highlighted is the state's, a state highway. I know it's on TPO off in the distant future. All we can hope is to kind of push them to say, okay, we need you to come up with a plan sooner. This is becoming ridiculous. The more we can kind of give people options outside of coming through our town that are safe, the more opportunity we have to kind of alleviate the traffic coming through the town of Farragut. And one last one is, like I said, the Loop Road, Woody Drive. I think improvements here, plus the fact that it's the sidewalks and trails that they're putting on Canton Hollow, improvement here with the Canton Hollow improvements could do a lot of good for our community. Certainly for the Concord Road. Loop Road has about carries about a third of the traffic that residential portion of Concord Road does, and it's a Concord Road. We should be trying to restore it back to more of a walkable atmosphere, more pedestrian-oriented and friendly, and more of an asset for the residents who live there. So anything we can do to alleviate traffic from there, I think, would be great.
What are those green callouts?
Oh, that's just so I could get the measurement of the length of it.
Gotcha.
Because
Thank you.
this is kind of what Union Road is about, this length too, isn't it?
1.2 miles.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So that's a nice distance to try and get TPO funding. We were very successful in getting Union Road, so it would be nice if we could do something with that. So that was just briefly, there are opportunities for mitigation beyond what we're trying to do in the heart of our town. So.
All right, let me go back to the original.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So getting back to this amendment, somebody have any other questions, thoughts, comments?
I had a question.
Yeah.
Going back to the specific site plan, I know it's still just a concept plan, but if you go back to the earlier plat, I forget which drawing number it was, the earlier than that. We'll go back to those later ones. Yeah, yeah.
This one?
Yeah, or the next one.
That's good.
That one, I think it's building 5. It's the easternmost. It's kind of the second one as you turn in the upper drive, and it's the easternmost building there, I think.
Okay.
That's
So 5 and
Is that
7.
5? I was trying.
Yeah.
It looks to me like in this concept plan, and that is a concept plan, that the buildings on each end are kind of particularly the one on the left, overlaps completely, considerably with the other building to the left. But if you go back to those latter plans on the streets and the greenways, it's quite a bit of space there. So are you really going to have some blockage that you're going to come up with dimensionally in the detail we're going to see later? Or is it going to be kind of more space generated there before it looks like everything's shoehorned in there. The other latter plans, it doesn't look that way.
We actually, I'll let Alex speak to this, but.
You see my point?
Not exactly.
Well, I can show it to you.
Yeah, I know at the last meeting, several people pretty much point blank said on the commission that we didn't need the pool. So in order to not do text amendments, get the plating with the 25 feet, we eliminated the pool. We also eliminated one unit. but we were able to achieve that. And Alex, I'll let you, I'm not,
You eliminated a pool and a parking lot, so.
Because you can, if you look at L1 too, it's very pronounced.
Alex Birch, 814 East Woodland Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917. So I'm guessing you're talking about the one along that parking lot, with apartment parking lot building that's overlapping the northeast building.
Or can you draw a
Can you-
circle
yeah, could
around
you
it?
highlight that,
Making sure we're
please?
talking about the same thing here.
Talking about this one?
Yeah, we're talking about the end unit, the Townhouse 5, the left unit.
Left unit?
Yeah.
And how it kind of overlaps in
Four.
what looks like
Yeah.
yeah, Townhouse 4, the right unit.
Yeah, I see that. So,
And you have a little bit of that on the other end, but this is. very
yeah, that, you
pronounced
can see
right
it's overlapping a lot,
So
but that interior loop road is an alley surface, or alley garage surface, so they're not really blocking, you're gonna be blocking the inside of the unit, but from the streetscape, it's still gonna be shown. I can see where you're coming from. I think it's more on a scale thing, these last plans that you're saying it was less
Well, I just-
covered.
I realize it's a concept.
Yeah.
But then I contrast it with.
Our plan
how
isn't to
open
do
it
that. We
looks.
don't wanna block that at all, just lose, because that would lose value in that unit. So I think later down, when we get more in the design phase with architect, that,
Mark, go to the green space.
yeah.
Now, see how open it looks and not
Yeah.
an overlap there?
Yeah,
It's very pronounced on the other one,
Right
and
here.
it's
right here.
very
Yeah.
unpronounced there.
Yes, sir. I see what you're saying there.
I'm
So I
just
think,
saying
yeah,
concept.
once again, it's
Okay, what's
concept,
going on there? 'Cause
and
that's
we
something
just
we need to
switched
look at.
to a local architect in town. We were using our apartment architect to get this concept plan, and we got Greg Huddy here, who we're bringing on more local to, get this process and everyone on the same page with you guys and making sure that's going smoothly. But I can see what you're saying. It's two different looking plans, and this is more just showing the green. I'm sure that we didn't bring the CP1 page or the concept site plan exactly into this public space plan it's looking, because it looks a little different. I can see what you're saying there. But I believe the concept plan, once again, concept plan, we will get more detailed preliminary plat plans that, because we would never build or want to show, I know we're showing that, and it's a little, I think it's more of a scale, kind of hard to,
Public street,
it's,
80,
Go to the one that's got the public streets.
yeah.
That's really the one.
That's the one, so,
That's probably the one we ought to be looking
That's
at.
a two-
yeah, because you have a little apron between those two buildings.
Yeah, those two.
That's separated and doesn't look like they're
Different
right
than
up
your
front on
earlier
top
one,
of
which
each
is
other.
More detail,
Yes, sir.
and that's what's misleading. to
Yes,
me.
sir. I understand.
Which ones? It's a concept. I'm just trying to give you feedback.
Yeah, I
The
understood.
problem, straighten it out.
Yeah.
Free advice, huh?
No, we'll take it, and we'll definitely look into that.
Any more questions or comments? So,
You need a motion and second on it, and then we need to take action on it.
okay.
I'm going to move to approve with the subject twos.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Hey.
Thank you.
Item number 10, discussion and public hearing on a final plat for Lot 2 of Biddle Farms Commercial and part of Lot 9R1 of Campbell Station Exchange, 5.3 acres, zone PCD, Bud McCollum, applicant.
Yeah, this is one of many plats that y'all will be seeing over the course of this project. And basically, as they finish different sections, different public improvements, they'll be platting easements and rights-of-ways. And this plat is really just platting the public street entrance from Kingston Pike back to two access points into the Aldi, back to this point. The Aldi's here. It has existing access from Brookline. It also has access through here from Kingston Pike ultimately. So that's mostly what this plat is doing. They're going to have to make some updates on their platting per the conditional letter map revision and make sure that that's consistent and they update that. But basically, that's what this plat is doing, is platting that portion of right-of-way. This portion here that goes back to the Village Green would be coming probably next. And like I said, there'll be probably numerous plats during the course of this project just because of its scale and complexity. So with this one, the staff does recommend approval, subject to the 3 comments that were noted in the staff recommendations, and that is basically making any adjustments ultimately to the plat to reflect the conditional letter of map revision.
Mark?
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
Getting with the town engineer on any letters of credit that might be needed in relation to this plat, and then obtaining the required signatures.
I was going to say, there's one other section back as we finished the part that starts into the town green, so we're going to go ahead and plat that part as part of this.
Here?
No, over from Brookline.
Oh.
Down
here.
there you go.
Okay.
So this particular plats that section, and it plats the first section you were discussing from Kingston Pike in.
They met with our engineering staff, the contractor and developer, and looked at what was ready to be platted for this particular part of the development, and that's kind of what they felt comfortable with at this point. I forgot about that section, yep.
And I think that they have looked into the issue to make sure the Clomer and all of that is worked out. If they haven't, we certainly will. We're fine with the comments from staff on this. As Mark says, we'll be probably the very next thing will be carrying on from where that stops on down to the town green, and carrying on from Brookline where this one would stop on over to almost to where the new bridge will be built out to Concord. But as Mark said, there will be extensive amount more of platting. It's just as we get these things done, we like to go ahead and get them platted.
So do we have any more questions or comments about that?
I'm going to move for approval with the subject twos.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
You want to take a break now, or is this keep going?
All, it doesn't matter to me.
Let's go. It's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion on a request to amend the town's outdoor site lighting provision to restrict ball field lights to public facilities on public property. Farragut Neighborhood Preservation Partnership applicant.
An overview of this, and then the applicants can speak about the specifics of their objectives and what they're trying to accomplish here. But there's the Farragut Neighborhood Preservation Partnership's a coalition of several subdivisions, and they have submitted a text amendment to request, as I understand it, that the lighting provisions be amended to limit or restrict outdoor field lighting to McPhee Park and Bob Leonard Park, which is where it currently exists. I would note that Knox County has lights on their properties, but they're really ultimately exempt from the town's provisions. We ask them to do things, and they, try to work with us to the best extent possible, but they're ultimately exempt from our ordinances. So that might be something that potentially could also need to be clarified.
Can you define those properties? Can you tell us what those properties
On
are?
the high school, the high school, middle school, intermediate school, there's ball fields on those properties.
Okay.
So, yeah, the outdoor site lighting provisions that we have and that we recently updated a few months ago are in Chapter 4 of our zoning ordinance, and really, they're really intended to address private property where without these provisions, the town wouldn't really have any control over lighting and trying to minimize impacts that lighting can cause to adjoining properties. So that's really the intent of that section. But I think what they're requesting is to, add some clarification that if you have ball field lighting, that it would be restricted to those two locations. There are some current exemptions in our outdoor site lighting provisions that generally exempts single and two-family residential, and then also street lighting. Although some street lighting does require approval, like residential street lighting. But, again, there are some exemptions, and potentially that's a portion of the ordinance where we could look at adding this clarification language. We talked about this at the staff developer meeting on July the 5th, and some of the things that came up was just how best to deal with this, what properties would it affect. Would we need to define certain terms like what is a ball field, what is a recreational facility, things like that. And then, where you do have lighting, what controls are in place to try to ensure that any, residents that may be nearby are protected to the greatest extent possible. So we've actually had ball field lighting at Bob Leonard Park since roughly 1989. Wow. And we, of course, have had it at McPhee Park since it opened in 2009. And the town always tries to, we are very careful about lighting, especially to not adversely affect adjoining residents. So we try to position lights and use the latest technologies possible to minimize any impacts. And I think we've certainly demonstrated that with the newest lighting that we have at the new phase at McPhee. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, and they can elaborate on their requests and their objectives.
Good evening. My name is Jeannie Brykolski, and I'm a member of the Farragut Neighborhood Preservation Partnership. My address is on Crestview Road in Bel Air Subdivision. And I'd just like to point out some of our core team members over here. We have Don Mann, Kathy McKeon, Lori Lyle, and she drug her husband along tonight, Rob. And then we have Mary Ellen Brannon and Pam Stevens. One of our team members from Glen Abbey could not be here tonight. Don is from Glen Abbey, Kathy from Shiloh, Lori and Rob from Derby Chase, and Pam and Mary Ellen are from Farragut Crossing, and then, of course, I'm from Bel Air. What we are trying to accomplish is pretty much summed up in what we named our little group. The Farragut Neighborhood Preservation Partnership. Our goal, our aim, is to protect all Farragut neighborhoods and residential areas, families, homes, residents. And we are submitting a text amendment change to the outdoor ball field lighting. Our objective is to restrict all ball field lighting to McPhee Park and to Bob Leonard Park in Farragut, Tennessee. The intent of this is to protect all Farragut neighborhoods from incompatible development and to prevent negative effects on residential properties, neighborhoods, and Farragut residents. Definition of a ball field. A ball field is defined as a multi-use field which may be utilized for a multitude of activities. The scope of our text amendment includes, but is not limited to protect Farragut neighborhoods and residents from intrusive lighting that could be a public nuisance and a safety issue, to protect Farragut neighborhoods from becoming commercialized, to prevent negative effects on residential properties, neighborhoods, and families such as noise pollution, traffic issues, invasive lighting, and safety concerns. To protect Farragut neighborhood property values. And I think most importantly, to protect Farragut neighborhoods and residents' quality of life. Now, we've done some research. We've talked to a lot of different people in a lot of different neighborhoods, asking them what concerns them the most. And there's a whole long laundry list. Light pollution comes to mind right off the top. Because regardless of new technology, there's going to be light pollution. The LED light systems that are currently being used in a lot of ball fields are 60 to 80 feet tall. And they have to be that tall with multiple poles, I guess you could call them, along the different sides of ball fields to get the maximum effect they need so that whoever is playing and whoever is watching can see what's going on. Now, these 60 to 80 foot tall lights are taller than most 2 to 3 story houses. Think about that a minute. And if you live in a 2 or 3 story house, or even a 1 story house that happens to be up on kind of a hill, and you look out your window and you see this glaring light, this big bright light, it's not attractive. It's invasive. Can you imagine trying to sleep when that's on? You got a baby that's sick, a child that's hard to put down at night? It's something to consider. So having glaring outside lights right outside your windows when you're trying to sleep or relax could be very invasive and not to mention at the least annoying. These lights would shine brightly on neighboring yards and houses. Even in the daylight, these towering poles would cause the views from our homes and yards would be an eyesore. If outdoor ball fields lighting is allowed outside the scope of McPhee Park and Bob Leonard Park, scoreboards could be next, and of course they would more than likely be lit. So it's a domino effect also. Noise pollution is a concern. Night activities on a lighted field brings its own set of problems. Cars honking their horns, people cheering, bullhorns, possible, PA and loud systems. Safety concerns. This includes the placement of the lights and how they will affect those driving in and out of a residential neighborhood. A lot of our neighborhoods in Farragut are not flat. We do not have flat streets. We have hills. And if somebody's coming over the top of a hill and there's a big tall light, it could be very distracting and confusing. And it could easily cause an accident. And there's also a lot of older neighborhoods that have very narrow streets. So it's a challenge when 2 cars are trying to go one way and the other. Whoops, excuse me, sorry about that. I have a habit of talking with my hands. And then you would add the glare or the brightness of a light that's suddenly in your face. Distracted driver, possible accident. Privacy issues. I think that kind of speaks for itself. Your home is supposed to be a safe haven, and yet you have these big tall lights and light coming in. And what if these lights happen to have or need to have or require whatever, security cameras or cameras to monitor a ball game? I don't particularly want that outside my window. And of course, one of the things that concerns people is our property values. Most of us, our homes are our biggest investment, our only investment. But if you want to go sell your house, And as somebody's driving in your neighborhood for the first time, they see 60 to 80 foot tall LED lights, or whatever happens to be the newest technology coming around. Or they might only be 40-foot lights, but there's a whole row of them. You have to think of the aesthetics. When you're trying to sell a home, you have to put your best foot forward. You can't do that with this kind of lighting. And besides the fact that they're unsightly, there's the whole problem of what do you do if the game runs over? Now, granted, most of these are going to probably be on timers. But is there going to be a provision for the timers to be manually changed, let the game keep going? Is that fair to the people that live in those areas that are being affected by it? And of course, traffic. You've got, once again, cars, people. Kids are excited. They're running back and forth, darting out into the street. People are tired. It's the end of the day. Safety issue. But once again, the most important thing is quality of life. Our homes are our sanctuaries. That's where we spend time with our families and friends. It's where we feel safe and warm. It's where we find our peace and tranquility. Our homes are where our hearts are. So, if you have ball field lights that are down the street from you a little bit, but it's shining into your yard, and you're trying to enjoy yourself out in the backyard, just talking to a family member or a friend, and there's a game going on, and there's yelling and cheering, and you go inside. Oh, there comes the PA system, and you hear it inside your house. So this, although it sounds very simple, restrict ball field lighting to McPhee Park and Bob Leonard Park. It actually covers a multitude of items. It prevents a multitude of problems. And it also backs up what Farragut has been doing. It clarifies, and it makes the questions and the answers come together so that everyone in Farragut has to play by the same rules. And all Farragut residents, all Farragut neighborhoods are protected by those same rules. Any questions?
Not for you specifically, Jeannie, but Mark, on item 11 on the agenda, it says discussion on a request to amend the town's outdoor site lighting provisions to restrict ball field lights to public facilities on public property. But in the handout that you provided, Jeannie, it says restrict that ball field lighting to McPhee Park and Mayor Bob Leonard Park.
That's how we originally wrote it.
That's narrowed it down a little bit
Right.
from what we have on the agenda.
He was doing that for Knox County.
For Knox County, yeah.
County schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is strictly within Farragut's purview.
Right, I understand that too, though, but by restricting this, say, let's say in 5 years when we put turf in at Anchor Park, when the town decides or the residents
Right,
decide,
yeah, I
I'm using this
understand.
just as an example,
say.
not, this is
I started to see, I thought there was an
Here's-
agreement with Anchor Park that that's not going to happen, yeah.
But I just think that's
Hypothetically.
too, hypothetically, right, I just
Right.
felt like it might be too close, and I agree with a lot of your statements. My biggest concern with the technology of the lights, after seeing some of the technology for the, we were given some review last October, I don't know if you were there at McPhee Park.
This is what started all this.
Right, I understand that. To me, I think noise is the biggest nuisance. That's just me personally. But there are some very good points in here. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, the noise from ball games accompanies the night games. And during
Right.
and during the day, 11 o'clock in the morning till 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, that's, yes, it can be annoying at times. But at least you're not disrupting somebody's, their dinner time, their time with their kids doing homework. And not everybody's on a 9-to-5 schedule and sleeps from 11 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning. There's, I guess you would say, when you start cutting up the pie and you start looking at all the different pieces and you put them back together, and it comes back to outdoor site lighting being the crux of the problem.
Mark, quick question, because I don't know how you're going to word this in the ordinance, but right now, the only places we have it are in McPhee and Mayor Bob Leonard. We have specifically, a long time ago, made a decision that Anchor Park would be a dawn to dusk type park with no lighting. Whatever we write, I would want that to be called out, or I don't know how you call it out, but to make sure that the residents along Turkey Creek Road know that we're not going to come in and be putting lights in Anchor Park, because that's been a long settled that would be the way it is. So however we word that, certainly in years, if the residents, the community decides, hey, we want to light that park, and the people that live there are like, yeah, let's do that, I don't see it happening, but you can always go back and amend it. But I just think there needs to be clarity about that.
And I know there's not that much empty land left in Farragut compared to what it was 20 years ago. And a lot of the larger open plots of land are near or smack dab next to residential areas. So.
The other concern I had was brought up by another resident who wanted to understand, because they're in a neighborhood, they might want to light their tennis courts.
Yeah.
But I think tennis court lights, we have some in Fox Run. I assume that 28-foot, if you can get them under 28 feet, they fall into the lighting ordinance. So I think ours are less than 28 feet. You can light a tennis court with less than 28-foot tall lights, I would assume.
Yeah, the question there is going to be the angle and the glare prevention.
Yeah.
Because really, on a tennis court, it can't be parallel with the ground.
Okay.
It's going to have some angle to it to eliminate the field of play.
Well, ours are parallel to the ground.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
But we just have one tennis court.
Yeah, well, that's good that you
So-
can do it. I think, I'm just thinking from an effectiveness of the lighting, it would be better. But that wouldn't be allowed, but it would be better if it was positioned slightly toward the court. But
Okay, so the way the ordinance is written right now is that it has to be parallel, which is what our lights are.
Okay, well, that's good.
So, okay.
Look at that on site plans that come through the planning commission where some homeowners association is proposing, to light a ball field of some kind. So we look at that.
Okay.
One thing I do want to say is a part of what our thought process between, starting, I'm going to end up killing this thing. We started talking
People
about.
at home are going to be very upset with you.
Starting last fall is, a lot of people, emails, texts, phone calls, showing up at several of our doorsteps saying, what's going on, how can we make this right? The whole thing is, we're trying to protect everyone in Farragut, and we're trying to, and the reason we so narrowly defined this is because you could have a private landowner, a private property owner. I say, for example, I have a neighbor who they've got 4 acres, and he just laughingly made the comment one day. He goes, "What if I want to put a soccer field or a volleyball court in for my daughter and put lights up so their friends can play late at night? What if an HOA wants to take some common areas and do something similar with big, with bright lights. What if Willow Creek or Fox Den golf courses decide they want to be able to let their members have night play? It happens a lot in California and Florida and Arizona. It's just it's one of those things where it's like boom, 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 boom. It's just like a domino effect. And I don't think there's probably anybody who really wants to look out their window and look at a big old bulb and a big tall pole, or not be able to read a book or watch TV because there's so much noise coming from a field at night. I know it may sound to some like we're being nitpicky. That's because we were trying to narrow this down to its most basic level so that it would be simple, which I know technically it's not really, but we have looked at this so many ways. We have had so many meetings. We've had so many discussions. And actually coming up with this list and the way we wrote the text amendment request was actually quite easy. We actually agreed on everything. We may have rephrased it and reworded it a few times, but we were agreeing on everything because we were getting feedback from multiple people from multiple neighborhoods.
So,
Jenny, I certainly think we need to do an amendment to and support that. Now we've got to come up with the right wording for that. For this discussion purpose only, and I wholeheartedly understand the fact that lights are kind of the Pandora's box opening to all the other issues that come with that, the use and whether it be sound systems or what have you, that are just scoreboards. It just opens the floodgates for whatever else follows that as a nuisance to folks that are in neighborhoods, adjoining neighborhoods. So it's a matter of coming up with the right words, and so I think I speak for myself, I think probably for a few others, that we fully understand your point.
yeah.
And we understand the technology, we understand all these things and what have you, but they make no difference to me because you still come back to the root issue. If you have lights, you build it, and they will come, and all the other things will come with it.
Well, the definition of a ball field, I say, it's defined as a multi-use field which may be utilized for a multitude of activities. So it's kind of, like you say, a Pandora's box. And if you don't have a clear, concise definition, and you don't have a clear, concise goal and objective, then there's you don't know what you're going to get.
Well, at that point, that's a matter of making sure that the language that we put in the ordinance is accurate and reflecting what we like to do. So, Jeannie, you've made very valid points, and I think it's a matter of, Mark, have you gotten enough direction from us?
Mark is a challenge.
Yeah.
It's not that really not that hard of a amendment. I think we could address it in the first section of where it lists the other things that are exempt and clarify that, and then also the Knox County school lights. I don't know the question, I guess, defining a ball field, we would use that. If we're going to define it, we would use it in the ordinance, so ball field lights. So I guess you need to think about that definition of ball field that they've mentioned here. The one in Webster's is a little bit different, but that doesn't necessarily make one better than the other.
Oh, we got it off of Google.
Google, yeah. I wrote down one from Webster, and it was basically a field for playing a sport using a ball, is what it says.
I don't know, people who like cornhole may disagree with that.
Playing field is,
I think the devil in the detail is going to be, you call it ball field. you immediately start to
But it doesn't
apply a
necessarily,
legal restriction kind of there to, and somebody will come out and says, well, what? Okay, we want to build a municipal pool.
yeah,
That's not maybe a big acreage, but it
Yeah.
probably has some lights and where it would be located. So
Well, the
I
other
think, when you say public,
Yeah.
it's much more
well,
accommodating
maybe
to what might
outdoor,
be.
an outdoor recreational facility
Well,
might
yeah.
be a.
But you got to be careful calling, you use ball field.
I just looked it up to see, I was curious as to what a ball field was, because, you don't think about it until
See
you.
ball.
If the technology continues to improve, will they need to be on 60 to 80-foot poles? And really, the goal is is to not have the outdoor, these tall poles or these poles lighting these fields or recreation facilities or whatever, but also to not have the noise that comes with it. So that was my concern was,
That was my number one.
yeah. how-
Let's see,
Well, I mean,
it's the
you know,
lights,
that's a whole
it's the noise
separate issue.
pollution, it's the
Yeah.
privacy, the traffic, the safety, and most important of all, quality of life.
I mean, we could have some exemptions that restrict it to, those two parks, and then a clarification about the county parks that have lighting.
Okay.
We might want to we might just want to use the phrase outdoor recreational facilities, and then define what that is, because that would be
Make sure
pretty,
it's
pretty
public,
broad.
municipal.
That would address swimming facility, tennis court, soccer, baseball, anything. So,
And if there's some kind
Croquet.
of miracle thing in the future, you can always come back and take a relook at it and
That's
amend
true.
it. So it's not
yeah,
like you're
that's
locked
right.
in forever.
Yeah,
That's true.
if,
True.
that's right. Yeah, you can, just cause if we change it now, it's if somebody, we could change it again in the future.
Yep.
You never know, so.
Have to prove their case.
Okay, I think I have good guidance about that you all are wanting to move in a direction to address this, and I'll put something together for you to react to, I guess.
All right. Thank
Hopefully
you.
by next month. There's quite a bit on the agenda for next month.
Good, I do want absence this month.
Thank
you
you,
for coming.
Jeannie.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your input and for, I know we went on for a while, but we thought there was a lot of points that needed to be covered, and I really appreciate y'all's, the way you received it and the positive feedback. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that was going to speak on this, Mark?
No, they kind of
think so.
sent me over here.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 12, discussion on concept plan for the Virtue View Farm subdivision, parcel 33.03 and 33.04. Tax map 152, 033.03 and 152, 033.04. 44.9 acres, 44.09 acres, 13 lots, zoned R-1, Steve Williams, applicant.
And this is similar to the last time. This is just for discussion purposes. This is the property that was recently rezoned from agricultural to R1 at the intersection of Virtue Road and Evans Road. It's actually two tracks currently, a little over 44 acres. And so what they're wanting to do is subdivide that property into 13 lots. And really the purpose of this agenda item for this evening is related to this concept plan. They have requested a number of variances, and they kind of wanted to get the Planning Commission's feelings about those. And so if you want, I can go through those individually, and then we can talk about them one by one, or if you want me to go through all of them and talk about the staff's position on those and come back to, whichever ones you want to talk about. Do you have a preference on how you want to present that? Because basically, they just wanted to get feedback on the variance request. We have discussed this at 2 staff developer meetings. The initial one, we asked them to go back and look at the variances that they were requesting and try to, narrow it down, be more in line with other kind of recent developments where we've reviewed variances for properties that, have had this desired kind of rural character and feel. Those things would be like street and right-of-way width, having an open drainage system instead of a storm sewer and catch basins and pipes and all that stuff. I don't know what your pleasure is. You want to just go through one at a time?
One at a time.
And I'm just
Does that
going to,
flow
these
better?
are the ones that they listed on the concept plan, so, and I'll pretty much using their language for it.
If I could just kind of lead off and ask one quick question.
Okay.
And
Go ahead and
then-
identify yourself, Steve, please.
Yes, Steve Williams, 721 Virtue Road, Farragut, Tennessee.
Thank you.
As Mr. Sinclair reminded me the last time I was here, I've been here a long time. And he remembers me 30 years ago, and he let me know that I'm not 32 years old anymore. So, but that's true. I've been in Farragut for 30 years, and we bought the farm out there, and we've lived out there, raised our family out there. And we're considering, we're not like ready to do it tomorrow, but we're considering doing something with our farm if that's what we decide to do. But we wanted to do something special, because when we moved to Farragut, we moved here because Farragut was a collection of communities who were enclosed, who were separate in their own way. They were communities all joined together by the name Farragut. And that's what we want to do. I had an offer last week, a verbal offer, hey, let me just buy your place, we'll develop it out. And they would probably develop it out, Mark may disagree with this, but they would probably develop it out, 42 acres. They would probably get 65 to 80 lots. We're looking at 13 lots. But to do 13 lots, estate-size lots, and do something really special, I noticed that you all have put a lot of effort, a lot of mental effort especially, into the downtown, Biddle downtown, which I can appreciate being a developer all my life. What you all have done is you've created something from nothing. Biddle Farm, nothing existed in the town of Farragut paperwork to do that. And I've noticed you've put a lot of effort into doing something different. I guess what I'm asking you to do is kind of partner with us as we look at this and think about this as different. This is not your typical subdivision regulations where we pop in there and we have the zoning and we have the regulations, we bring you a plan, and we end up with 65 to 80 lots. This is 13 lots. The first thing is, and Mark's doing his job. Mark says, hey, our regulations say that you've got to improve Virtue Road and Evans Road. Okay, Evans Road is improved. Virtue Road's not improved. I know I've asked, I think I warned Darrell out asking him, when you going to do it, when you going to do it, when you going to do it? The last I got was somewhere between 2005 and 2025 and 2028. Does anybody really know? Yeah, well, that's what we don't know.
It shows off as a line item somewhere in the features of our CA.
And I can appreciate that because you can do only what you can do. You absolutely can't go out and build roads unless you start borrowing money, and I'm not going to tell you to do that. But you might want to someday to fix that road. What I'm saying to you is this is special, unique, different, and probably not to be repeated in Farragut ever again, because I think we're probably the last farm. I don't know that I'm right on that, but I think I'm pretty close. So what I'm saying is, could we not join together and work together to do something really different? Let's don't do the cookie cutter. Let's don't do the two units per acre. You're talking about traffic, and we all know traffic. I know you're talking about changing the signal traffic and all that stuff, but we got to be honest. We've got a lot more people moving here, and we're going to continue to have more people. And behind us, we're going to have 285 more families that are going to be driving past our driveway and past this piece of property. They're going to be going down McPhee Road. They're going to be going to Kingston Pike. They're going to be going to the schools. That's just the way it is. So what I'm saying is, if we can partner together to do something really special, the town wins because you lessen your density and your traffic. We get to do something really special in a place that's been important to us as a family. So I guess my first question, Mark, and for the board, let's talk about, are you really going to require me to do improvements on Virtue and Evans Road? Because for 13 lots, that's not even feasible. I mean, to be honest, I'll just be honest. So kind of where we at, let's start with that.
Well, that wasn't one of the variances you listed, but we can certainly talk about it.
Well, that's the big one, because these gentlemen back here, especially this guy that's an engineer, he reminded me how much that would cost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
And I almost fell over out there when we talked about it. So I said, we really need to start with that one.
Well, and I'll say this, most of your lots enter onto Evans Road, which is already improved. That section of Evans
Yes.
Road is improved, correct? And you're only subdividing the lots that open on Virtue Road to 2, and we've not required
For
improvements for
small
two.
ones like that, yeah. We
Yeah,
haven't-
of course. So
Okay.
I don't know that I have an issue with that. That's pretty consistent with what we've done. So.
Personally think you're okay on that.
Okay, that helps me out.
That's just me.
Yeah, that helps me out, because that was like heart attack time when we start talking about improving Virtue Road.
Didn't want it to be a road project with a
Well-
subdivision tacked onto it.
It was a road, it's exactly what it would be. It would be the opposite of a development, it would be a road project. The second thing I want you to think about, and I'm thinking outside the box, because if I was in Knox County, and I know you hate to hear this, okay? I own the,
You are in Knox County.
well, I know, but if we were at the Knox County Planning Commission, what I'm asking to do on the private road and gated entry would be, okay, no big deal, they've got it all written out, it's all written out, no problem. We've got gated entries, and I know you had a bad experience, and I was here when all that happened, and I heard about it, it was all over we all heard about it. When they came to the town and said, we need you guys to pay for that. We need you guys to pay for this. We need you guys, and I 100% being in business know what that's like, to have somebody come to you and want you to pay for something that you never agreed to do. And the town did not agree to pay for that. It was a joint permanent easement. It was a condominium project, if I'm right, Mark, Fox Den in particular. And it was,
Well, it's not the only one.
oh, I know, it was several.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. And I'm sensitive to that because I go through that in business. People say, well, you really don't owe me this, but would you do it anyway? And I understand that. But you've had some successes. Fox Cove over in Smith Road is 5 lots with a gated entry. Now, they do have a concrete driveway, which you see a lot in these joint permanent easements. Waverly Court on Smith Road is the little condominium project I think Saddlebrook and Doug Horn did. It looks like it's been pretty successful. And then, just contrasting with lifestyle, I'm looking at estate lots with a private road and gated entry. But the apartment, and I own an apartment complex with a gated entry, but Overlook at Farragut has a gated entry. Now, I understand it's owned by one person, one entity, and you're not really in the middle of it. But you do have 200-plus Farragut citizens, families, living behind that gated entry. And if something were to happen, they're going to be down here saying, hey, what are you going to do about this? And so what I'm saying is, I would like to get you to kind of open your mind a little bit and say, hey, this is really weird, this is different, this is unique. Would we be interested if it could be worked out appropriately? I just paved a small section of entrance to one of our developments we own a month ago. And let me tell you, it's frightening right now what it costs to repave. So I know what you're talking about. But if the paperwork were set up correctly, and things were done correctly, where I own Patriots Corner, the entrance is shared with the gas station next door. We share that entrance. And you do that on a lot of commercial properties where multiple owners and commercial property, am I right, Mark? They'll share a joint permanent easement. So it's really common in the commercial side of the business. I'm familiar with it. We all kind of deal with it, and we hope we have a good neighbor, basically. So what I'm asking you to do on this would be something really special and unique in Farragut if we were able to do this. So I'd like you to at least open your mind on that. Mark has been really good about talking about the other things. I don't think we have a lot of other issues, do you, Mark, other than those 2 big issues right there? We do have the connection. I would like to.
Oh, yeah.
The connectivity.
Yeah. The walking trail and pedestrian
Right.
connections, yeah.
With this being a big tract, estate lots, I would like to not do that because we have the sidewalk up and down Evans already on the other side. And then when you do Virtue Road, I did get to see a peek of that. The Virtue Road improvement plan, when it gets done, is a big sidewalk on my side of the road. So that'll all be taken care of.
I'm
Well,
going
that's
to
something-
share with you my thoughts.
Okay.
Here is, I get it, in Knox County, they could easily, with regard to a private street. In Knox County, you have county commissioners all over the place. They've got cover in that they're not, when they take a vote, they live in Powell and they're making a vote for someone in Gibbs.
Choda Road.
And so they've got cover. We don't have that cover. I would have a very difficult time putting on a future board of mayor and aldermen. I'd rather take the heat from you and say, I'm not going to do it, I can't vote on a private street, because I know what's going to happen. And more than likely, in 20 years, that road is going to need to be repaved. If they haven't saved for it, it's a safety issue. And they will come to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen will feel the need to have to take over that road. At that point, it hasn't been maintained. If it's not been maintained, it becomes a much more expensive project. I am very uncomfortable with saddling a future board with that decision. I should be willing to take the heat of that today, so that a future board is not making.
And I think it sets a
is
precedent
another.
as
Yeah,
well
that's
for
a,
us.
that's the one, because we've had, I understand what he's talking about, and I think, and we support some of these variances, as you
Yeah.
read in the packet. I think a lot of and I understand what Steve's trying to do, and I think that's a nice idea, to have larger lots and keep kind of a rural character. We've done that with Sassafras Meadows and with Ray Kenny's property on Union Road, and we granted some variances for both of those, and I think we would for this. But there's just some things that are, like the private public street. To me, that's a benefit to the people that are going to live there ultimately, to have a public street, because they're not going to be burdened with having to maintain that at some
Well,
point in the future.
Mark, could we?
Then put your gates at the driveways.
Well, then you end up with 9 gates, and that's silly. I'm not making a comment about you saying that. I'm making a comment to me that 9 gates is silly, when you could put in really one big nice one and have a really nice community gate. And that would be so let me ask you a question, because I think when we were talking the other day with the fire marshal, Dan, he got me to pull up and look at the new law about the gates, which click the enter. And I looked at that, and that's anticipated. That's a state law, Tennessee state law, for any gating system. It's the new system for the police officers and a new system for the fire department, where they don't have to use the Knox box like we use now. All my properties have Knox box on them. It's a click. They just click the radio, and some way or another it opens the gate. So it's quicker, more efficient. They don't have to get out and turn it, or where's the key? Who's got the key? Any of that. They just click on their radio and it opens the gate. So looking at that, Dan, I think he was correct. This is a way better system than what we've been doing. Don't know that you've installed any of those here. But my point would be, if we did do the private road, could we do the entrance knowing that we've worked it out with Dan for access? Because we don't have garbage pickup. I mean, that was private. I have private garbage pickup now, and they open and close my.
You mean a public road?
Make it public. I'm sorry, what'd I say?
You said private. It sounded like you said private road.
Okay, good, you corrected me. A public,
The Postal Service now requires a centralized mail too.
well, they do, and on the properties I have now, we have a central mailbox, and they go do that.
Yeah.
So we could arrange that with them. You're only talking 9 lots.
Well, I mean, it's ultimately not my decision. I point out the things that I think would be relevant to people that would make decisions. I mean, the private streets, and like I said, I support some of these variances and the idea of what you're trying to accomplish, but I think you can do that with a public street, just like those two developments did. Mr. Montgomery's and Ray Kinney's. They have a more narrow public street with open drainage, which I think is fine with what you're proposing here. I like the way the street is designed to come around the drainage and to try to, lessen the encroachment into the steep slopes to the south. So I think that's, to me, fine. I have a lot of concerns about really a precedent is a big concern.
Well, how do you feel about the public street with the gated entry as long as Dan and I work out all the safety issues? Because I don't want to get in any safety problems, so Dan will tell you that I don't take any chances on any of the safety issues.
Well, it's not my decision. We'd have to think about that. I mean, I think, we've had other subdivisions request a gate, and it's not, I think it would be a harmful precedent potentially, and really a gated community, and there's nothing wrong with them, but one of the things we're trying to encourage in our plan, in addition to developments like this that do kind of retain some of the rural character and the town's history of being kind of a rural community, is to actually try to provide for a greater sense of overall community and integration. So, and that's one of the reasons why I think having some kind of trail connection into the property is important. Again, that's just me as a planner. I understand where you're coming from, as a property owner, but I think that's real important. And your development can be unique, but still be integrated with the larger community. I support not connecting to the street in the Grove for what you're proposing here. I think that's, to me, a variance that I would be able to support. But somehow the pedestrian connections, to me, are really important to kind of get that tied in while still retaining a rural character for what you're trying to do. I think you can accomplish both. But gates are they kind of represent kind of a separation instead of integration. And so that kind of concerns me, and I'm afraid that there might be some other areas in town where we could start seeing gates pop up, and it, I don't know that that's it. Again, that's ultimately the people that make decisions to decide that. But as a planner, I would be concerned about that because I think it compromises an effort to try to create a greater sense of overall community.
Yeah, one of the things I think that you might think about, and I've seen this in Texas and California, but you'll have neighborhoods that are like this, that they have a walking trail that comes out of their neighborhood and goes up to a main walking trail itself, so that the residents of that particular compound, let's call it, can walk up and get on the main trail or ride a bike up and get on the main trail. You see, that's pretty common elsewhere. You don't see it here, but you do see it a lot of other places. So it's convenience for the residents of that compound, but for somebody that don't live there, they're not going to go down in there because it don't go anywhere. Right. So you might.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying maybe Evans down into the cul-de-sac or something like that?
Well, I mean, I've not looked at it as far as what could be connected, but that might be like we like to have the walking trails. I mean, what's the closest walking trail here?
For that one, it'd be on the other side of Evans, in front of the farm at Willow Creek.
And that's the one correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're adding to the one going toward McPhee from the farm at Willow Creek?
Yes.
So that would take you all the way to McPhee?
Well, yes. I mean, that would be added whenever that particular road is
upgraded.
Okay. That section's not been done yet.
Right.
But as it's done, then it would take you to.
Yeah.
Which would allow your residents to go to McPhee Park or whatever.
Yeah.
If they just had a trail that come out.
Just something to come along the side of the little cul-de-sac I'm talking about, something like that. Yeah. What I was trying to do is avoid the one that's connecting to the 285 lots, because that's a massive number of people walking through 2 lots. You know, that's like a road of people walking between 2 estate-sized lots down into the road. That just doesn't make good sense. I mean, I know Mark's a planner, but I've been doing this my whole life too. And from a real estate standpoint, that's like saying, wow, you're going to take 285 families, plus we all know Boyd Station is going to get improved over there at some point. Then you're going to we all know that, I guess I'm trying to think ahead a little bit. We all know that on the far side of McPhee, going under the railroad tracks, we know something big's going over there soon. We know that that's going to be a massive development in the next 10 or 15 years. So
The people that are probably going to use that connection are the people that live in your subdivision, because the main trail system is going to be in the grove. So they're going to want, if they want to be walkers and not be around right on a road and have actually kind of a pleasant walk, they're the ones that's most likely going to be using that.
Well, it would,
because they would have a longer walk, because it'll tie into a system that will be built as part of the grove that would go potentially miles and miles.
so you don't see it as the Grove people coming this
I
direction?
don't think there would be a whole lot of people coming down in there. I mean, again, that's just my opinion, but I think it would be a more marketability and value to me than the people that are living in this estate subdivision to have the opportunity to have kind of a nice, convenient walk that,
Well,
you know,
but
is
I
not
think
along
if you
the-
look at what the mayor said, if you walk up to Evans, you're going to be tied into going to McPhee soon. I thought one of the gentlemen over there, the farm at Willow Creek, said that they've been staking up Evans going toward McPhee, that was in the plan, to go ahead and put the walking trail all the way up to McPhee. I just misunderstood. Okay.
Well, there was a plan, and now we're regrouping to
Oh.
decide whether we need to do a road project.
Okay.
And
Okay, because he was like, hey, they've staked it out. I saw the stakes. Hey, it's coming. Then one of the neighbors called me up there and said they've run a road through me and all that. I mean, a walking trail through me. So I thought it was happening.
I
But-
would add to your point, that connection point at the Grove is kind of tucked back in the back of that neighborhood. So probably limited, I would think limited people coming from there. It would be more the folks that are living here looking for a way to get to McPhee Park.
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time letting go of the sidewalk connection. Those are my own 2 sticking points. In a lot of this other, I'm totally on board with you as far as creating something that's rural and neighborhood and relax some of these requirements that are better in fixed lot neighborhoods where you're just trying to kind of make everything consistent. And these are going to
Right.
be a little different.
Like I said, the thing that's made Farragut really special for families moving out here is the community feel of enclosed communities that are part of a bigger town. And
I hear you, but our trails, I know in Fox Run, we have a bunch of trails, because we evolved over several decades. There's some trails up at the top, but there's also right at the end of my neighborhood, a trail that's gonna connect into Ivy Farm. I'm looking forward to that opportunity. You know, our trails aren't so heavy, like you said, 270 families coming through. They're not so heavily used like that you're gonna see marching armies of people. But it really is quite nice to have those connections interior, that if somebody wants to walk, they don't have to get out on the main street, because even Evans Road, I'm sure, is, people can drive pretty fast on
they
those.
do.
So
Yeah.
it's always nice to kind of tuck into an internal trail and know that you're going to have a nice, peaceful experience. So I'm a big proponent of them. I understand we do not need a road connection there. That's not required, and it's not necessary. But I'd have a hard time letting go of the.
I just see the opposite. Mark sees my folks, 13 folks or 9 folks walking toward Boyd Station, I see 278 or whatever families walking toward us.
I don't think they go into a dead end.
Where are they gonna go?
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I don't know. They could walk up the road up to Evans.
Oh, where are they going, though? They're going to McPhee from the Grove. And they've got the roundabout, and then they've got another trail. You know, we saw that plat, you know, for the Grove, Phase 1, Unit 1. You know, really, I mean, this is my opinion, too, and I tend to agree with that. The people are not going to be flooding through down into that valley there. They're going to be going west. There's just really nothing for them to go to, Evans or Virtue, for that matter. It's just, that's the way I view it. And I've honestly studied this, you know, proposed plat quite a bit and looked at it from different angles, too, and that's where I arrive on there, so.
I tend to look back and see, okay, what is the purpose of this connector? I mean, you're gonna talk about a few people in his development, and if you look at that terrain, why do I wanna go that direction versus going to Evans Road and walking either right or left, east or west?
Well, it's about a 18% slope.
I mean, why do I wanna hike up to the top there, and then I'm going through another subdivision to go
Right.
anywhere? Why would I even want to do that? And I'm not, because I'm only talking about a handful of people.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
9 families.
I want, you know, and in fact, with the state size lots, I think these people will be more than smart enough to, you know,
Walk
either
on their own property.
walk on their own property
Yeah.
for one thing, or walk internal to that,
Yeah.
or walk down to Evans, or drive somewhere else, and
Yeah.
or have their chauffeur take them. I don't know.
I think that's just me.
I mean, I just think in common sense here a little
Right.
bit that we don't need a connector.
Right. I agree, because
You need to be able to
18%,
go from internally there out to Evans Road, and that's.
yeah, I think that's right. Going to Evans Road makes sense, but
But
going
it's
up, you know,
but
Mark
as far as
disagrees. He likes a steep slope. We had this discussion.
Well, you can come over to Concord Hills and you can walk
Right.
there.
Right.
Fox Run.
Yeah, he likes a steep slope, and I'm the opposite. I like a flat slope.
I think I mean, the bottom line from my perspective is that the development acknowledges and provides for some kind of pedestrian connectivity, and there's different options that could be looked at. I don't disagree that the topography is, you know, you get a lot of, you know, the contour lines are pretty close there on
Yes.
that south side.
I just look at the common sense of the situation in the case. Now, the public road and a gate, that's a whole other topic.
But I think the development does need to provide for some kind of network for the pedestrians. You know, that would be consistent with what we did with any other developments that have been here. In fact, we got 2 individual house lots on Boring Road, and that's kind of a rural area. They're building a walking trail across their frontage as part of the construction of their individual houses. I mean, this is 13 lots that, you know, is, again, another rural character, and I support the idea of what he's trying to do. I just think there's certain things that I wouldn't be able to support because I think they would kind of be problematic to our plan, and then potentially a bad precedent, you know, because we need to try to be consistent and treat everybody the same, and, you know, while still achieving, hopefully, to some extent, what Steve's trying to do here. I think you can.
Yeah, I think I would support the sidewalk from the property out to Evans only. I would be in support of that.
Yeah, that's.
Because if I lived there, I don't think I'd want to open it up to traffic for that big development, personally. So I think I can be sympathetic with that.
Okay, thank you.
I think that,
So we're down really to my passion about the private gated entry.
yeah.
So I understand.
I got too much scar
understand.
tissue from earlier incidences.
I have a question for you. What is the function of your private gate? Is it prestige, privacy, security, all above, or what?
Okay. I don't want to say this wrong, but I have a gated entry.
Yeah.
I didn't have a gated entry when I built the house and lived there for a few years. My daughter, when she was going to Farragut, she was little. I don't remember. She went there through third grade. I don't know if it was second or third grade, but at some point she got off the bus. She always walked up the driveway to the house. One occasion, only one time, some man stopped and tried to lure her to him. That did it right there. We were lucky that one of the Galbraiths across the street saw something that didn't look right. They've always been really good neighbors, and said something real quick. Hey, what are you doing? And I don't even know what could have happened if that didn't happen. After that, we were like, we got to put a gate up. We can't take this chance. And putting a gate up is not a fun thing. I have a gated entry in an apartment complex I own, and it is a pain in the rear end. It got hit by lightning the other day. We had that big lightning storm. And it's still broken. We are ordering parts, and I don't know if you've had any experience trying to get parts right now. But fixing gates and getting parts and keeping it going is not a pleasant experience. But I just feel like it gives a unique, special, something that Farragut doesn't have right now. It's not about, you've got apartment complexes with gated entries. So it's not about a prestige or segregation or anything like that, because you've got apartments that have it right now.
It's not a public street.
Oh, I understand. It's a money thing on the public street versus the private street. I 100% get that. But if I could conquer that some way, I would like you to at least think about it. I understand the money thing, because nobody likes to have people coming and asking for stuff.
I'm going to think out of the box here. Is there such a thing as a gate on a public street that opens for any car that pulls up?
Well, and that's the problem is.
Yeah.
The point is that most people wouldn't attempt to go through the gate.
No.
That's the point.
But now all of the fire and police would open and click to open.
Yeah.
I went through that with Dan. So we've covered the safety part.
So what happens with
We're
you?
setting a precedent that I'm very uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to change the zoning ordinance too,
Yeah.
because it requires
Too many
lots
lessons
to
learned from
front on a
past
public
experience,
street.
and I know they're deeply ingrained in me. I've got to remember those vividly.
Yeah. You've been here, you went through all that, didn't you?
Don't remind me how old I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I was
know.
young once.
Okay, but we've got it down to basically one little issue at this point. So let us go back and talk about that. I do appreciate you taking time. And again, I just want to say, I've done a lot of development in Knox County. It's pretty cut and dried. Now, I could do this in Knox County. We'd be good to go. Other times I'm in Knox County, and I love Knox County too, because they've been really good to me, you can't think outside the box, okay? Farragut, with Biddle Farm and other stuff, y'all been thinking outside the box. That's why I thought we could probably think outside the box a little bit. So I appreciate that.
Well, we are outside the box on some of that.
Oh, I know, we're getting there.
Just not everything.
All right, thank you.
Well, hold on now. We've got a list of variances.
Oh,
here.
okay.
I think we're going to go through these one at a time. I think we've covered probably 3 of them.
You just want to talk about the ones that, well, we already talked about the ones that we agree to disagree on.
Right, we've got,
The only one I think that was left that, if y'all want to talk about any of these, I'd be happy to.
I'm just
Zach is
putting
not
that out there in case
Sure.
any of the other members.
One thing was a width to depth ratio, and that might be something that we might want to talk about. I don't know.
What is the purpose of that? Is, I guess, what my.
Really, the purpose of it was to prevent flag lots, which it doesn't have that.
So we can.
I don't see an
If
issue.
the purpose was to prevent flag lots. and
Yeah, it's
he's
3 to
not
1,
creating flag
basically.
lots.
Yeah, in this zoning. So what I was looking at was these lots here, it's, they're all on pretty steep slopes. I think if they kind of reconfigured that, you might, lose a lot in that area, because it's really be kind of a challenge to build on that slope. That might get rid of the need for that variance altogether. That was what I was talking about in the write-up, so I would kind of have concerns about granting the variance, because it really is kind of a self-created condition. I mean, it's the number of lots that are being proposed there. Now, I agree with why he's got the road back here, and that does create the depth. What he's trying to do there is keep the road off the steep slopes. And
Right.
And I agree with that. That's a good thing.
And we were going to elevate the road as well to help take away some of the steepness.
Yeah, but someone's, maybe I'm thinking about
I
this.
mean, it's
from-
up to you all.
don't
That's
think
just
it's a
my
problem.
observation
It's not a problem
on
to
it.
me.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I am with this one.
Right.
Not necessarily everything that we've run across, but on this particular one,
Yeah.
the topo has a whole lot to do with what we're looking at.
Topography
Right.
for
Well, and the variance
topographic
that
reasons.
we can
Yeah.
make say that the reason we're permitting the variance is because it's not creating the flag lots, which is the reason we have that to begin with. Could we not?
Yeah, we have to give a reason for the variance. and
That's what
so-
I mean. Is
so
that a sufficient reason?
Well, I think the topography, and that's why he's really he's got that road not as far back.
Yeah.
But part of the problem is the number of lots through there too, and that's what my point was, is it's 4
Still going to have a
lots
deep
that are.
lot.
But how big is
Pretty
that
steep.
lot? Like number 6, how big is 6?
1.7.
That's a big acreage. It's just deep.
A lot of,
Yeah.
some of these lots are.
Those lots trees
No.
or is it, okay.
And one of the things, the shape of the lot, the shape of the road is to avoid taking out any of those trees in that treed area.
And that's
Those-
You're going around it.
I went around them
Yeah.
to save the trees because that's a nice little green space. And if you look at that lot 10 owns those. So that's given Lot 10 a very large footprint so they can own those trees in that separation. That's where our barn is. That's a really nice little area right there.
That's a good design.
I used to could read this, but I can't read the size of the lot. Mark, can you see it on Lot 10?
19 by, oh,
No,
How many acres?
I
Oh.
can't tell.
One.
5 something?
too
Okay.
small.
Yeah, so that's really a question for you all on that variance. I just point that out.
I don't have an issue with that.
I'm good with the variance.
All right.
Okay, well,
Are there any more?
I think all the other ones, the open space, no detention, we support that. I don't,
Cul-de-sac.
now the street width, they're requesting from 26 to 20. They do have probably double the lots of what you had in Ray Kinney's and Tucker's. So
20
whether,
is what's required for fire code, correct?
they actually ended up having to sprinkle those houses that would be in there, but that was a water line issue.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean for fire code to the access road.
absolute minimum.
Yeah.
And I would put a fire hydrant down there too. Dan and I already talked about that.
I figured.
Yeah.
I'm not really against the 20 feet. I've always been a proponent of streets that are appropriate to the context and not super wide.
State size lots, you're not going to have people parking in the street, so it's
No.
not,
No.
you know.
I don't really have a big problem with it. I just point out that there's quite a few more lots than some of the other
Yeah.
ones where we've relaxed that width, so.
Pardon? I know, I think we're down to the gate. I'll do a little research on that, and I have to talk to my wife as well. I'm not a singular decision maker here.
Anybody
that
else
all?
have anything?
Is that all?
I have learned that.
If it was my
Yeah.
state size lot, I think I'd want to have the choice of whether I wanted to put a gate on it or not.
I think you'd pick a gate,
No,
because you'd want that.
I wouldn't want a gate.
Okay. All right, I'll work on it.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Steve.
I think we made a lot of progress. I appreciate it.
You're not wanting to go in August, are you? You gonna work on it maybe September.
I am going to work on it, if you don't mind, and look back towards September. I'm going to be out of the country. I'll be in Croatia.
Okay, so
So-
just
Lovely.
probably September.
It's a
then.
great place. That's why I'm going. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I was supposed to be there in 2020.
So, okay, so 13 was
13
postponed,
was
14,
postponed.
approval of utilities.
Don't have any other utilities
Okay,
on the
and
agenda.
citizens forum.
Didn't have any.
Do we have anybody else in citizens forum?
No, unless
Either
they
signed
have
up or they
something. I
didn't.
don't- no. I think that's it.
The July 21,
Too bad.
2022 meeting of the Farragut Municipal Planning Commission is adjourned.